Remember that feeling when you first saw a car in a movie and thought, that's it, that's the one? Not just any car, but the car that somehow made everything cooler? For thousands of 80s kids, that car was a beat-up black Camaro that went from junkyard reject to street legend in one of the decade's quirkiest films. Today we're counting down 20 weird facts about Lane Meyer's 1967 Chevy Camaro from Better Off Dead that you definitely didn't know. And trust me, number 1 is going to blow your mind. But first, if you love classic cars and 80s nostalgia, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell because we're just getting started. Number 20, the hood scoop was completely fake. So here's something that'll make purists cringe. That aggressive-looking hood scoop on Lane's Camaro, totally fake, not functional, just for show. The prop department literally glued it on for filming because they thought it looked cooler. And honestly, they weren't wrong. The non-functional scoop gave the car that perfect mix of trying too hard teenage ambition that matched Lane's character perfectly. But here's the kicker. When fans later restored the actual movie car, they kept the fake scoop, because sometimes movie magic is better than mechanical reality. The decision came down to pure aesthetics. The film's transportation coordinator wanted something that screamed muscle car to audiences who might not know the difference between a small block and a big block. So they went to a local auto parts store, bought an aftermarket fiberglass scoop, and slapped it on with industrial adhesive. Years later, when Camaro enthusiasts examined the car, they found adhesive residue and drill marks that didn't match any factory mounting points. It became one of those details that hardcore fans argue about at car shows. Should a restoration be screen accurate or mechanically accurate? In this case, they chose the movie magic. Number 19, the paint job changed colors 3 times during filming. This is wild. The Camaro actually appears in 3 different shades of black throughout the movie. Not on purpose. The original paint was so oxidized that every time they buffed it for a scene, it got slightly shinier and darker. By the end of filming, the car looked almost blue-black in certain lights. The continuity department just gave up. They figured nobody would notice. And for 30 years, nobody really did until some obsessive fan went through the film frame by frame. The paint situation got so bad that in some scenes, they had to spray the car with a dulling agent to make it match earlier footage. But here's where it gets really weird. The dulling spray would wear off during driving scenes, so the car would literally change shade as it moved down the street. One scene shows the car looking flat black in the driveway, then glossy black by the time it reaches the corner. The restoration team that eventually got the car had to analyze paint samples from 7 different spots to figure out what the original color actually was. They found everything from flat black primer to metallic blue-black clear coat. The car was basically a rolling timeline of desperate paint fixes. Number 18. It had a secret nitrous system that was never used. The prop department installed a complete nitrous oxide system in the trunk. Full bottle, lines, solenoids, everything. The plan was to have Lane accidentally activated during the drag race scene for comedy. But John Cusack refused to do the stunt after the stunt coordinator explained what nitrous actually does to an engine. He was convinced the car would explode. It wouldn't have, but nobody could convince him otherwise. So this fully functional nitrous system just sat there, unused through the entire production. What makes this even funnier is that they spent $3,000 in 1985 money installing this system. The studio accountants were furious when they found out it was never used. There's actually footage somewhere of the director trying to convince Cusack that nitrous is safe, with Cusack responding, "Then you drive it." The compromise was to film the drag race scene without the nitrous and add engine sound effects in post-production. To this day, if you look carefully at the trunk scenes, you can spot the blue nitrous bottle tucked behind the spare tire. When the car was sold after filming, the new owner was shocked to discover a complete professional-grade nitrous system that had never been activated. He reportedly used it exactly once before chickening out, just like Cusack. Number 17. The dashboard was from a completely different car. Here's something nobody talks about. The dashboard in Lane's Camaro isn't from a 1967 Camaro. It's from a 1969 Firebird. Why? Because the original dash was destroyed when a crew member spilled an entire thermos of coffee on it 3 days into filming. The coffee soaked into the padding and started growing mold in the California heat. The smell was reportedly so bad that actors refused to sit in the car. The transportation department had exactly 1 day to fix it. They couldn't find a 67 Camaro dash anywhere in Los Angeles, but they found a 69 Firebird in a junkyard in Van Nuys, and it was close enough. They figured nobody would notice the difference, except Firebird owners noticed immediately when the movie came out. The gauge cluster is completely wrong, the radio placement is different, even the glove box handle is from the wrong year. It became this weird inside joke in the Pontiac community that Better Off Dead secretly featured a Firebird pretending to be a Camaro. The best part? When fans restored the movie car decades later, they kept the Firebird dashboard because it was now part of the car's movie history. Number 16. John Cusack couldn't actually drive stick. This is embarrassing. John Cusack didn't know how to drive a manual transmission when filming started. The Camaro in the movie was supposed to be automatic, but the car they bought for filming had a 4-speed manual. Instead of teaching Cusack or finding another car, they came up with an insane solution. They welded the shifter in 3rd gear. Permanently, the car could only operate in 1 gear for the entire movie. Every driving scene with Cusack behind the wheel, 3rd gear. Starting from a stop sign, 3rd gear. Parking, 3rd gear. The clutch was basically destroyed by day 2 of filming. They went through 4 clutches during production. The transportation coordinator later said it was the stupidest solution to the simplest problem he'd ever seen. But it worked, sort of. If you watch carefully, you'll notice Cusack never actually shifts. His hand goes to the shifter sometimes, but it never moves. They added shifting sound effects in post-production to cover it up. When the car was restored years later, the new owner found the transmission was basically fossilized in 3rd gear. It took a complete rebuild to make it functional again. Number 15. The engine sound was from a Corvette. Every single engine sound you hear from the Camaro in Better Off Dead is actually from a 1978 Corvette. The real Camaro's engine sounded, according to the sound director, like a sick lawnmower. So they brought in a Corvette with a built-for 27 big block, recorded it for 3 hours, and dubbed all those sounds over the Camaro footage. The funny part is they didn't even try to match the RPMs. There's a scene where the Camaro is clearly idling, but the sound is a high-rev scream. Another scene shows it accelerating slowly, but the audio is from a full-throttle drag strip run. The sound editor's notes, which surfaced years later, literally say, "Nobody will care." And honestly, they were mostly right. Except for one group, Camaro owners. They immediately recognized that the exhaust note was wrong. The cam lobe was wrong. Everything was wrong. It became this running joke that the movie's Camaro identified as a Corvette. Some fans even started calling it the Camervette at car shows. Number 14. There were actually 2 cars. Everyone thinks there was one hero Camaro in Better Off Dead. Nope, there were 2 identical cars and they were swapped constantly. One was the pretty car for close-ups. The other was the stunt car for driving scenes. Except here's the thing, they weren't actually identical. The stunt car was a 1968 Camaro with 67 badges glued on. Nobody noticed until 2010 when a fan bought what he thought was the movie car, only to discover the VN indicated a 68. The mix-up happened because the transportation coordinator found a beat-up 68 for cheap and figured close enough. They swapped out the grille, added rally sport badges, and called it a day. But if you know Camaros, the differences are obvious. The vent windows are wrong, the side markers are in different positions. The entire rear quarter panel is a different shape. Throughout the movie, the car literally changes model years between shots. There's one scene where Lane gets in a 67 and gets out of a 68 in the same continuous sequence. The restoration community still argues about which car is the real movie car. The answer, both and neither. Number 13. The French exchange student never actually touched the engine. Remember that montage where Monique helps Lane rebuild the engine? The actress never touched a single tool. Every shot of hands working on the engine belonged to a 47-year-old mechanic named Carl from Burbank. They filmed all the mechanical work separately, then edited it together with reaction shots of the actors. The actress later admitted she didn't even know how to open the hood. But here's the really weird part. Carl, the mechanic, became oddly famous in the Los Angeles car scene because of those hand shots. People recognized his distinctive skull ring in the movie and started calling him Better Off Dead Carl. He supposedly leveraged this into getting free drinks at car meets for years. He even started signing autographs as Monique's hands. The production company tried to credit him as a stunt double, but he refused because he said he wasn't doing stunts, just working on a car while someone filmed it. To this day, his hands are probably the most famous anonymous hands in 80s cinema. Number 12, the drag race opponent was supposed to be a Mustang. Originally, Lane was supposed to race against a 1965 Mustang, not a Falcon. They had the Mustang on set and everything. But during the first take, the Mustang's transmission exploded. Literally exploded. Pieces of the bell housing went through the floorboard. The driver was okay, but the car was toast. With no budget for another Mustang, they grabbed a Falcon from a crew member's cousin and painted it orange overnight. The Falcon was slower than the Camaro by about 4 seconds in the quarter mile, which ruined the dramatic tension of the race. So they came up with a solution that would make any car person cringe. They had the Camaro driver ride the brakes during filming to make it look closer. You can actually see the brake lights flicker during the race if you look carefully. The Falcon owner was apparently thrilled his car was in a movie until he saw it on screen and realized they made it look faster than a Camaro. He spent the next decade explaining to people that his Falcon wasn't really that quick. Number 11. The hood pins were installed backwards. This is such a perfect metaphor for the whole movie. The hood pins on Lane's Camaro were installed backwards. Instead of securing the hood, they actually made it less stable. The prop department didn't realize their mistake until the hood flew open during a driving scene and smashed the windshield. Instead of fixing them, they just welded the hood shut for the rest of filming. Every scene after that incident where someone opens the hood, movie magic. They'd cut away, switch to the other car, or use a hood from a different Camaro entirely. There's actually a continuity error where the hood pins switched direction between shots because they were using footage from before and after the incident. The welded hood created another problem. The engine overheated constantly because they couldn't add coolant easily. The solution? They drilled a hole through the hood and installed a hidden funnel. If you know where to look, you can spot the patched hole in several scenes. Number 10. The license plate changed 5 times. Nobody kept track of the license plates. The Camaro appears with 5 different California plates throughout the movie. Not prop plates. Real registered plates from various crew members' personal cars. They'd just grab whatever plate was available that day and slap it on. The legal department had a meltdown when they found out during post-production. The plates belonged to the transportation coordinator's wife's Honda, a Grip's pickup truck, the director's mother's Cadillac, a borrowed plate from a rental car that was definitely illegal, and one plate they literally found in the parking lot and never identified. The studio had to retroactively get permission from all the plate owners to use their numbers in the film. The rental car company threatened to sue until the studio paid them $5,000 in licensing fees. The best part is that one of those plates got a dozen parking tickets during filming that the studio had to pay because they were legally responsible for the vehicle while displaying that plate. Number 9. The restoration scene was filmed in reverse. The famous restoration montage where the Camaro transforms from junk to beautiful, most of it was filmed in reverse. They started with a pristine Camaro, then progressively made it worse while filming. When played backwards, it looked like restoration. This is why some movements look oddly unnatural. Tools being put down look like they're jumping into hands. Rust appearing looks like it's being cleaned off. The decision to film in reverse came after they realized they'd have to actually restore a car on camera, which would take weeks. Instead, they took a nice 67 Camaro from a collector, paid him $10,000 to let them destroy it over 3 days, then bought him an even nicer one afterwards. They sprayed it with fake rust, loosened body panels, threw dirt on the engine, and even poured oil everywhere to make it look neglected. The collector reportedly cried watching them ruin his car, even though he knew he was getting a better one. The fake rust wouldn't stick properly to the waxed paint, so they had to sand down sections just to make it look bad. Essentially, they had to damage the car to make it look damaged. Number 8. The shifter knob was from a bowling trophy. The custom shifter knob that Countach grabs dramatically in several scenes, it's literally the ball from a bowling trophy. The prop master's kid had won 3rd place in a youth bowling league, and they needed something round and distinctive. They unscrewed the little golden bowling ball from the trophy and threaded it onto the shifter. The kid was apparently furious when he found out, but it gets better. That bowling ball shifter became such an iconic part of the car that when fans restored the movie Camaro, they tracked down the exact same trophy model from 1984 to recreate it. There's now a cottage industry of better off dead replica shifter knobs made from youth bowling trophies. The original trophy, minus its ball, still sits in the prop master's garage. He's been offered serious money for it by collectors, but he keeps it because his son, now in his 40s, still hasn't forgiven him. The bowling alley that hosted that youth league in 1984 even has a small plaque mentioning their trophy's contribution to cinema history. Number 7. The tires were mismatched on purpose. All 4 tires on the Camaro were different brands and sizes. This wasn't a mistake or budget issue. The director thought matching tires looked too perfect for a teenager's project car, so they specifically sourced 4 different tires. A Goodyear, a Firestone, a BF Goodrich, and something called a Power King that nobody had heard of even in 1985. The mismatched tires created a handling nightmare. The car pulled hard to the left under braking and would hop sideways during acceleration. The stunt driver called it the worst handling car I've ever driven on purpose. They had to reshoot several scenes because the car would veer unexpectedly out of frame. One scene required 14 takes because the car kept drifting into parked cars. When the car was restored decades later, the new owner found that the front left tire was actually a snow tire painted to look like a regular tire. The tread pattern was completely different, which explained why the car handled like it was on ice, even in dry conditions. Number 6, there's a dead rat in the door panel. During a restoration in 2003, the new owner found a mummified rat inside the driver's door panel. Based on the age and condition, it had been there since filming. The theory is it crawled in while the car was in storage between shoots and died. This means that in every scene with John Cusack driving, there was a decomposing rat about 6 inches from his elbow. The smell must have been masked by all the other smells in the car: the moldy coffee-damaged dashboard, the constantly overheating engine, the various fluids leaking everywhere. Several crew members mentioned the car smelled terrible, but everyone assumed it was just old car smell. The rat was so well preserved that the restoration team kept it and created a small display, case with a plaque reading supporting actor, Better Off Dead, 1985. It's supposedly still displayed at classic car shows as part of the car's history. The discovery also explained why there was a suspicious stain on the inside of the door panel that multiple restoration attempts couldn't remove. Number 5. The Camaro. Almost killed the director. During the filming of the drag race scene, director Savage Steve Holland decided he wanted to ride along to see what it looked like from inside the car. The stunt driver warned him about the welded third gear situation and the bad tires, but Holland insisted. First turn, the car spun out and went backwards into a fence at about 40 miles per hour. Holland was fine, but refused to get in the car again. The fence belonged to a house that turned out to be owned by a lawyer who specialized in personal injury cases. He came out, saw the damaged fence and a movie crew, and his eyes lit up like Christmas. The studio ended up paying him $30,000 to not sue, which was more than they paid for both Camaros combined. The best part, the crash is actually in the movie. If you watch the drag race scene carefully, there's a quick cut where the Camaro suddenly appears to jerk sideways. That's the beginning of the spin, but they cut away before it got bad. Holland later said it was the most expensive 2 seconds of footage in the entire movie. Number 4. It was almost destroyed in a real street race. 2 weeks after filming Wrapped, the Camaro was sitting in a storage lot in Van Nuys when 2 kids broke in and tried to steal it for illegal street racing. They got it started, drove it about 3 blocks, then crashed it into a mailbox when they couldn't figure out how to get it out of third gear. Remember, the transmission was still welded in place. The kids abandoned the car and ran, but the police found them because one of them left his wallet on the passenger seat. Turned out they were huge Better Off Dead fans who wanted to race the actual movie car. The studio didn't press charges after the kids' parents paid for the mailbox and the damaged front bumper. Those kids are now in their 50s and supposedly still tell the story of how they almost successfully stole the Better Off Dead Camaro. The mailbox they hit was replaced with a reinforced steel one that's still there today, with locals calling it the Camaro-proof mailbox. Number 3. The Rally Sport badges were upside down. For the entire movie, the RS badges on the Camaro are mounted upside down. Nobody noticed during filming. Not the transportation coordinator, not the director, not even the Camaro-owning crew members. It wasn't until the movie was in theaters that Chevrolet sent a strongly worded letter to the studio pointing out the mistake. By then, it was too late to fix. The badges had been installed by a production assistant who had never seen a Camaro before and just guessed which way they went. When questioned later, he said he thought the S looked like a 5, so he oriented it to be readable as R5. The Chevrolet letter apparently caused a minor panic at the studio, with executives worried about lawsuits or having to recall the film. Chevrolet's legal team eventually decided it was actually good publicity because it showed that even Hollywood needed Chevrolet's expertise. The upside-down badges became such a famous mistake that when replicas of the car are built, some owners deliberately install their badges upside down as a tribute to the movie. Number 2. The car's current owner won it in a poker game. After changing hands 6 times since the movie, the Camaro was won in a high-stakes poker game in Las Vegas in 2018. The previous owner, a casino executive, put it up as collateral in a private game and lost with a full house to 4 aces. The winner didn't even know what Better Off Dead was. He just thought he was winning a classic Camaro. When he found out about the car's history, he tried to sell it immediately for $500,000. Nobody would pay that much, so he started researching the movie and became obsessed. He's now one of the biggest Better Off Dead fans in the world, despite never seeing the movie before winning the car. He spent over $200,000 on additional restoration, tracking down original parts, and even hired a private investigator to find the original bowling trophy shifter knob. He brings the car to every Better Off Dead screening within 500 miles and charges exactly $2 for photos, the same price as the drag race bet in the movie. He claims he's made about $12,000 so far, which means he only needs about 400,000 more photos to break even. Number 1. John Cusack has never acknowledged the car exists. Here's the weirdest fact of all. John Cusack has never, not once, publicly acknowledged the Camaro from Better Off Dead. He's talked about hating the movie. He's talked about regretting it. He's even apologized to the director. But in 40 years of interviews, he's never mentioned the car. Not once. When fans have brought die-cast models of the Camaro for him to sign at conventions, he refuses. When someone brought the actual car to a screening he was attending in 2012, he walked past it without looking. The current owner has tried to contact him multiple times to offer him a ride in the restored car. No response. There's even a conspiracy theory among Better Off Dead fans that Cusack was somehow traumatized by the car during filming. The truth might be simpler and sadder. Multiple crew members have said that Cusack genuinely couldn't drive the car properly and was embarrassed by how many scenes required a stunt double. Every driving shot where you can't see his face, that's someone else. He apparently spent hours practicing in the parking lot, but could never get the hang of the welded third gear. Situation. One crew member said Cusack called the car "my four-wheeled humiliation." The director has confirmed that Cusack's hatred of the movie might actually stem from his frustration with the car. Imagine being the lead in a car movie when you can't actually drive the car. 40 years later, he still won't talk about it. And there you have it. That's 20 weird facts about Lane Meyer's 1967 Camaro from Better Off Dead that prove sometimes the best movie cars are the ones that barely worked. Did any of these facts surprise you? Do you have your own Better Off Dead car story? Drop it in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive into 80s movie car history, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next video about movie cars with mysterious histories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Number 20. The Great Mini Deception. The film might say 1969, but here's the first bit of movie magic nobody talks about. Every single Mini Cooper you see racing through those Italian streets, they're actually 1967 Mark I Cooper S models, not 1969 models, not even 1968. The production team deliberately used 2-year-old cars for one of the most iconic car chase scenes in cinema history. And it gets weirder. They went to extreme lengths to hide this fact. The license plates on every Mini were specially made with G suffix registrations, which in Britain indicated 1969 vehicles. So they took 1967 cars and slapped fake 1969 plates on them. Why? Well, real G-plate Cooper models would have been the newer Mark II design, which looked completely different. The filmmakers wanted that specific Mark I look, something those classic round headlights, that particular grille design, that unmistakable 60s shape. They were so committed to this deception that they created an entire fleet of automotive lies on wheels. Every time you watch that movie and see those plates, you're looking at pure fiction. The cars are older than they're pretending to be, wearing license plates from the future, creating a time paradox that only exists in Hollywood magic. Number 19. BMC's Cold Shoulder. You'd think British Motor Corporation would jump at the chance to have their cars star in a major motion picture. Free publicity, right? International exposure for the Mini brand? Wrong. When the producers first approached BMC for help with the film, the company flat out refused to donate even a single Mini. Not one. Here was a British film, celebrating British ingenuity, featuring a British car in the ultimate British heist story, and Britain's own motor company wanted nothing to do with it. The executives at BMC thought the whole project sounded ridiculous. Mini Coopers as getaway cars, racing through sewers, jumping between buildings. They figured this movie would either never get made, or would be a complete disaster that would damage their brand. Can you imagine being the BMC executive who made that call? Watching the Italian Job become a cultural phenomenon, seeing Mini Cooper sales skyrocket, knowing you could have been part of that success from the beginning? The irony is beautiful. BMC's refusal forced the production to buy their Minis at cost, spending their own money on cars that would ultimately give BMC millions in free advertising. Sometimes the best business decisions are the ones you don't make. Number 18. The Fiat Conspiracy. Here's where the story takes an unexpected Italian twist. When word got out that the British producers couldn't get Mini Coopers from BMC, Fiat swooped in with an offer that was almost too good to refuse. The Italian car manufacturer offered to give the filmmakers dozens of Fiat 500s. Not sell them. Give them. Free cars. As many as they needed. All they had to do was change the script and make the getaway cars Italian instead of British. Think about that for a second. The Italian Job, filmed in Italy with Italian cars, backed by Italian money. It made perfect sense. Except director Peter Collinson absolutely refused. He insisted the cars had to be British Minis. No substitutions, no compromises. The whole point was British criminals using British cars to pull off the perfect heist in Italy. Fiat kept sweetening the deal. They offered technical support, drivers, mechanics, whatever the production needed. Still no. Collinson was so adamant about using Minis that he was willing to spend significantly more money buying them at cost rather than accept free Fiats. That's dedication to a vision. Or stubbornness. Maybe both. Either way, we almost lived in a world where the Italian Job featured tiny Fiats instead of Mini Coopers, and cinema history would have been completely different. Number 17. The Secret Swiss Connection. With BMC refusing to help and Fiat's offer rejected, the producers had to get creative. Really creative. They ended up orchestrating a complex international car buying scheme that sounds like something out of, well, a heist movie. First, they managed to convince someone at BMC to sell them 6 brand new Minis at cost price. Not donated, but at least not full retail. That was the easy part. But 6 cars weren't nearly enough for what they had planned. They needed dozens. So they turned to BMC's Swiss agent who somehow had access to 25 used Minis. Why Switzerland? Nobody really knows. Maybe Swiss regulations were different, maybe the Swiss agent was more cooperative, maybe they just found a loophole in BMC's corporate structure. Whatever the reason, the production ended up importing 25 used British cars from Switzerland to Italy to film a British movie about stealing Italian gold. The logistics alone were insane. Paperwork for international vehicle transport, insurance, import duties, all for cars they were planning to destroy. By the time they had assembled their fleet, they'd spent a fortune just acquiring vehicles. And remember, this was 1968. That money could have funded entire films. Instead, it bought them a parking lot full of tiny British cars in Turin, waiting to become legends. Number 16. The Cooper S Illusion. Out of all those Minis assembled for the film, only 10 were actual Cooper S models. 10. The rest were standard 848cc Minis, the basic everyday version that your British grandmother might drive to the shops. But on screen, they all look like high-performance Cooper S models. How? Movie magic and a lot of custom work. The crew spent weeks transforming regular Minis into convincing Cooper S replicas. They added fake badges, different wheels, modified grills, racing stripes, the works. From the outside, you couldn't tell the difference, but under the hood, completely different animals. The real Cooper S models had 1,275cc engines producing 76 horsepower. The standard Minis, 848cc engines with just 34 horsepower, less than half the power. During filming, they had to carefully plan which cars did what. Real Cooper S models for the high-speed stuff, standard Minis for the crashes. It was automotive sleight of hand on a massive scale. Watch the film closely and you might spot the differences. The exhaust note changes, the acceleration varies. Some Minis seem peppier than others. That's because you're watching a mix of performance cars and grocery getters, all pretending to be the same thing. Hollywood, where even the cars are actors. Number 15. The Turin Massacre. By the time filming wrapped on the Italian Job, the Mini casualties were staggering. 16 Cooper S models were officially listed as rendered unroadworthy. That's a polite British way of saying completely destroyed. 16 out of the 10 real Cooper S models and their replicas We're talking about cars that were rolled, crashed, submerged, jumped, and generally abused in ways that would make a mechanic weep. Some were driven off buildings, others were slammed into walls at full speed. A few ended up in the river. The stunt drivers weren't holding back. Every spectacular shot you see in the film represents another Mini heading to the scrapyard. The production's attitude was simple. Cars are expendable. The shot is everything. Need a Mini to crash through a barrier? Send it. Want one to flip down a mountainside? Let it roll. The insurance claims must have been incredible. Imagine being the adjuster who had to process Mini Cooper destroyed while jumping between buildings or vehicle totaled during sewer chase sequence. But here's the thing. Those destroyed Minis created cinema history. Every crashed car contributed to chase scenes that are still studied and copied today. 16 Minis died so that thousands more could become icons. That's either a tragedy or a beautiful sacrifice, depending on how you look at it. Number 14. The 6 survivors. Out of the entire fleet of Minis used in the Italian Job, only 6 848cc replicas survived the filming in drivable condition. 6. That's it. These weren't even the star cars. They were the basic models dressed up to look important. But they could still move under their own power when the dust settled. Where did they go? That's where the story gets murky. Some reports say they were sold to crew members for pocket money. Others claim they were abandoned in Italy. A few might have made it back to England. Nobody kept proper records because nobody thought it mattered. These were just used cars that happened to be in a movie. Today, any one of those 6 survivors would be worth a fortune. If you could prove it was actually used in the film, you'd have collectors fighting over it with checkbooks drawn. But here's the problem. Nobody knows for sure which surviving Minis are the real ones. Over the years, dozens of cars have been claimed as original Italian Job Minis. Most are fakes or replicas. The real survivors, if they still exist, are probably sitting in someone's garage, their owners unaware they're sitting on a gold mine. Somewhere out there, in a barn or a lockup, one of those 6 miraculous survivors might be waiting to be rediscovered. The ultimate barn find. The holy grail of Mini collectors. Number 13. The Turin Time Capsule. After filming wrapped in 1969, something extraordinary and bizarre happened. Or rather, didn't happen. Many of the wrecked and damaged Minis, along with boxes of spare parts, were simply abandoned. Left in a storage garage in Turin and forgotten. For decades. We're talking about pieces of cinema history just sitting there, gathering dust and rust while the world outside made the Italian Job into a cult classic. Nobody thought to preserve them. Nobody considered they might be valuable. They were just broken cars taking up space. For over 40 years, these remnants of the production sat untouched. Bonnets, doors, suspension parts, even some nearly complete chassis. All slowly decaying in an Italian garage while Mini enthusiasts around the world would have paid fortunes for even a small piece. It wasn't until 2011 that someone finally opened that garage and realized what was inside. Imagine being the person who made that discovery. Walking into a dusty garage and finding the automotive equivalent of King Tut's tomb. Except instead of gold and jewels, it's bent British steel and worn racing stripes. Parts of 3 original Minis were positively identified. Lamp bars with the distinctive mounting points, bonnet straps with the exact specifications used in the film, even some original movie-style number plates. After 4 decades, the Italian Job cars had returned from the dead. Number 12. The fake plate scandal. Every single license plate you see on the Minis in the Italian Job is completely fake. HMP 729G, LGW 809G, GPF 146G, none of these registrations were ever officially assigned to real Mini Coopers, or any cars for that matter. They were pure fiction, created specifically for the film. In Britain, making fake number plates is actually illegal. You can't just print up any combination you want and slap it on a car. But for filming, they got special permission to create these imaginary registrations. The production chose these specific combinations carefully. They needed plates that looked authentic, but wouldn't accidentally match real vehicles. Imagine some poor Mini owner in London getting parking tickets for crimes committed by their car's fictional twin in a movie. The G suffix was crucial. It indicated a 1969 registration, maintaining the illusion that these were brand new cars. But the letter and number combinations before it? Complete fantasy. Today, these fake plates have become as iconic as the cars themselves. Replica plate makers sell thousands of copies to fans who want their Minis to look movie authentic. People are paying real money for fake plates that were fake even when they were real. It's like a counterfeit of a counterfeit. Meta fakery at its finest. Number 11, the differential disaster. Here's a mistake so fundamental that car enthusiasts have been laughing about it for over 50 years. In one scene, the mechanics talk about replacing a differential on a Mini. Sounds technical and impressive, right? There's just one massive problem. Minis are front-wheel drive. They don't have a rear differential to replace. It's like talking about changing the propeller on a bicycle. The part simply doesn't exist. This wasn't a small oversight. The scriptwriter clearly didn't understand how Minis worked. Neither did the director, apparently. Or any of the actors who delivered these lines with straight faces, or the entire technical crew who were literally surrounded by Minis every single day. How did this make it into the final film? Nobody caught it during scripting, filming, or editing. Thousands of people worked on this movie, and not one person said, hey, wait a minute. It's especially embarrassing because the film's entire premise revolves around the Minis' unique capabilities. Their front-wheel drive is what makes them so nimble and perfect for the heist. Yet the script gets this basic fact completely wrong. Mechanics and Mini enthusiasts have turned this into a drinking game. Watch The Italian Job take a shot every time they get something technically wrong about the cars. You'll be plastered before the chase scene starts. But honestly, most viewers never noticed. The line sounds convincing enough if you don't know better. Number 10, the gold weight problem. The Italian Job's central heist involves stealing $4 million in gold bullion. Sounds exciting, right? 3 Minis, loaded with gold, racing through Turin to freedom. There's just one tiny problem with this plan. Actually, it's not tiny at all. It's about 4 tons. That's how much $4 million in gold actually weighed in 1969. 4 tons. Divided among 3 Minis, that's roughly 1.3 tons per car, over 2,600 pounds of gold in each tiny British car. The maximum payload for a Mini Cooper S? About 600 pounds. Maybe 700 if you really pushed it. The production is asking us to believe these cars are carrying twice their maximum capacity while performing incredible stunts. In reality, the suspension would have collapsed before they left the building. The tires would have exploded. The chassis would have bent like a banana. Even if by some miracle the cars could move, they certainly couldn't jump, corner, or accelerate. They'd be crawling along, sparks flying from their undercarriages scraping the pavement. The filmmakers knew this, of course. The gold bars in the movie were painted wood. Because using real gold bars, even if they could afford them, would have destroyed the cars instantly. It's a plot hole you could drive a Mini through, sideways, while carrying 2 tons of gold, which you definitely couldn't actually do. Number 9. The reinforcement regiment. To survive the punishment of filming, every stunt Mini received serious structural modifications. We're talking about reinforcements that would make a tank jealous, extra bars welded into the frame, strengthened suspension mounts, roll cages hidden inside, reinforced floors to handle the impacts. These weren't just safety measures, they were necessary to keep the cars from disintegrating during stunts. The sewer scenes were particularly brutal. Minis weren't designed to handle that kind of sustained lateral stress. The production welded additional supports throughout the chassis just to keep them from folding in half. For the building jumps, they basically created Mini-shaped armor shells. The roof structures were completely rebuilt with hidden steel beams. The door frames were strengthened. Even the windscreen surrounds got extra bracing. All hidden, of course. On camera, they looked like normal Minis, but underneath, they were almost entirely different vehicles. The irony is that these modifications made the cars heavier and less nimble, the opposite of what makes a Mini special. But without them, there would have been no chase scene. Just a lot of very expensive British scrap metal scattered across Turin. Some of the reinforced Minis were so heavy they could barely reach highway speeds. The stunt drivers had to build up momentum well before each shot, hoping the cameras didn't catch them struggling to accelerate. Number 8. The Turin traffic jam. Some of the most chaotic scenes in The Italian Job weren't actually scripted. The traffic jam sequences where Minis weave through gridlock streets. Many of those confused and angry drivers were real Turin residents who had no idea they were in a movie. The production got permission to film on public streets, but they didn't always announce exactly when or where. They'd show up, start filming, and capture genuine reactions from locals who suddenly found themselves surrounded by tiny British cars, driving on sidewalks and through shopping arcades. Italian police were supposedly managing traffic, but communications often broke down. Entire neighborhoods would suddenly find their streets blocked by film equipment and Minis racing through at dangerous speeds. The angry shouting you hear in some scenes? That's not acting. That's real Italian drivers expressing their sincere opinions about British film crews disrupting their commute. Several minor accidents happened when locals tried to drive through what they thought were normal streets, only to encounter minis coming from unexpected directions. The production's insurance company nearly had a heart attack. Legal releases had to be obtained retroactively from dozens of unwitting extras. Some Turin residents still talk about the day their quiet street turned into a racetrack without warning. The footage was too good not to use, so it all stayed in the film. Sometimes the best movie moments are complete accidents. Number 7. The Rooftop Roulette. The famous scene where minis jump between buildings wasn't just dangerous, it was borderline insane, but the production took one precaution that shows they weren't completely crazy. They positioned a truck full of polystyrene blocks underneath the jump zone, just in case. Think about that. A truck full of foam to catch a falling mini. This wasn't some professional safety equipment. This was literally, let's fill a truck with packing material and hope for the best. The stunt drivers were essentially betting their lives on glorified packaging peanuts. The gap between buildings was precisely calculated, but so many things could go wrong. Too much speed, overshoot into the opposite wall, too little, plummet to the foam truck below, wrong angle, roll off the roof entirely. The drivers had no real way to practice. You can't exactly set up a building jump in a parking lot. They had to get it right on the first take because the minis could only survive one jump, maybe two if they were lucky. During one attempt, a mini landed so hard it compressed the foam truck's contents by several feet. The driver walked away, but the car's suspension was completely destroyed. The foam did its job, barely. Legend has it that one stunt driver refused to do the jump until he'd had several drinks. Not the most professional approach, but apparently it worked. He made the jump perfectly. Dutch courage in a British car jumping between Italian buildings. Number 6. The producer's escape plan. The stunts in the Italian Job were so dangerous that producer Michael Dealey allegedly had an actual escape plan ready in case someone died during filming. Not insurance, not legal protection, an actual plan to flee the country if a stunt went catastrophically wrong. This wasn't paranoia. This was practical planning based on Italian law at the time. If someone died during filming, the entire production could be held legally responsible. Criminal charges were possible. Dealey reportedly had cash, fake documents, and a car ready to drive to Switzerland at a moment's notice. He'd worked out routes, timing, even which border crossings would be least monitored. Some crew members thought they might actually die. The stunts kept getting more elaborate and dangerous. Safety standards in 1968 were, let's say, more relaxed than today. Stunt drivers were literally making it up as they went along. The fact that nobody died is genuinely miraculous. Several drivers were injured, some seriously. Cars crashed in unexpected ways. A few stunts went completely wrong, but somehow didn't result in tragedy. Dealey never had to use his escape plan, but its very existence tells you everything about how dangerous this production was. They were one bad jump, one failed brake, one miscalculation away from the Italian Job becoming the Italian tragedy. Years later, Dealey admitted he'd never been more stressed on a film. Every stunt day, he'd wait by the phone, ready to run. Number 5. The continuity chaos. Watch the Italian Job carefully, and you'll spot dozens of continuity errors involving the minis. Cars change color between shots, damage appears and disappears, interiors switch from scene to scene. In one sequence, a red Mini clearly has a white interior. Cut to the next shot, black interior, cut again, back to white. It's automotive multiple personality disorder. Why? Because they were constantly destroying and swapping cars. The car you see starting a chase might not be the same one finishing it, or the one in the middle. They'd use whatever Mini was still running for whatever shot they needed. Door damage is particularly entertaining to track. A Mini's door gets crushed in one shot, next shot, it's pristine. Then it's damaged again, but differently. Then, it's a completely different door altogether. The racing stripes change too. Sometimes they're perfectly straight, sometimes they're wonky, sometimes they seem to move position entirely. That's because different cars had stripes applied by different people on different days. The production tried to maintain consistency, but when you're destroying cars daily, continuity becomes a luxury. They just hoped audiences wouldn't notice. And mostly, we didn't. We were too busy enjoying the chaos to count continuity errors, but once you start looking for them, you can't stop. It becomes a game within the movie. Spot the switching Mini, it's everywhere. Number 4. The Bus Loading Ballet. The climax of the Italian Job shows 3 Minis being loaded into a modified bus while it's moving. This wasn't special effects or camera tricks, they actually did it, for real. The stunt required incredible precision. 3 different drivers had to hit exact speeds match the bus's movement perfectly, and drive up narrow ramps into a moving vehicle. One mistake, and you've got a mini-sized disaster. The bus was specially modified with reinforced floors and custom ramps. The angle had to be perfect, too steep, and the minis couldn't climb it, too shallow, and they wouldn't fit. Engineers spent weeks calculating the exact specifications. During rehearsals, they destroyed 2 minis that missed the ramps and crashed into the bus's rear end. Another one made it halfway up before its engine gave out and it rolled backward into traffic. The successful take you see in the film was actually the 7th attempt. By then, the drivers had memorized every bump in the road, every slight variation in speed. They could have done it blindfolded, probably. The interior shots of minis inside the bus were filmed separately, thankfully. The actual loading was dangerous enough without adding actors to the mix. But those 3 successful ramp runs, that's real driving skill captured on film. No computers, no green screens, just British cars defying physics and Italian traffic laws simultaneously. Number 3, the Cultural Revolution. The Italian Job didn't just feature Mini Coopers, it fundamentally transformed their cultural status forever. Before the film, they were quick little British cars known for rally racing. After, they became the ultimate symbol of cheeky British cool. Sales exploded. BMC, the company that refused to help the production, suddenly found themselves selling every Mini they could build. Dealerships had waiting lists. Used Cooper S prices doubled, then tripled. The film turned a car into a lifestyle statement. The irony is delicious. BMC thought the film would damage their brand. Instead, it created a marketing phenomenon that advertising agencies still study today. Millions in free publicity. Global brand recognition. A permanent place in popular culture. The red, white, and blue color scheme became so iconic that Mini still offers it as a factory option today. They call it the Italian Job Edition, or similar variations. Over 50 years later, they're still selling cars based on a movie they wanted nothing to do with. Every Mini Cooper owner becomes part of that legacy. Park a classic Mini anywhere in the world, and someone will mention the Italian Job. It's unavoidable. The film and the car are forever linked in public consciousness. 3 little cars racing through Turin created a cultural moment that resonates across generations. Kids who weren't even born when the film came out know about the Italian Job Minis. That's not just good filmmaking, that's immortality on 4 tiny wheels. Number 2, the modern mystery. In 2011, when parts of the original Italian Job Minis were rediscovered in that Turin garage, it created a detective story that's still unsolved. Experts authenticated lamp bars, bonnet straps, and original plates. But here's what's driving collectors crazy. They also found evidence that more complete cars might still exist somewhere. The discovered parts came from at least 3 different Minis. But the inventory suggests there should be more. Chassis numbers that don't match. Parts from cars that supposedly were completely destroyed. Either the production records were wrong, or there are more Italian Job Minis out there waiting to be found. Since the discovery, the hunt has intensified. Collectors and historians have traced ownership records, shipping manifests, insurance claims. They found tantalizing clues, but no complete cars. Yet, there are credible rumors of a complete Italian Job Mini in a private collection in Switzerland. Another supposedly exists in a barn in northern Italy. A Japanese collector claims to have one, but won't provide proof. Every few years, someone announces they found an original. Usually it's a replica or a car with 1 or 2 authentic parts. But the search continues. The Holy Grail would be finding one of the 3 hero cars, the main Minis used for close-up shots. These were the best maintained vehicles, the ones that got the most screen time. If any survived, these would be the ones. Somewhere out there, gathering dust in an anonymous garage, the find of a lifetime might be waiting. The ultimate barn find story. The last Italian Job Mini waiting to be discovered. Number 1, the impossible cliff balance. Here's the fact that nobody talks about, the detail that changes everything about the Italian Job's legendary ending, that famous final scene where the bus balances on a cliff edge with the gold sliding toward the back. It's physically impossible. Not improbable, not unlikely, impossible. The physics simply don't work. The bus, a Harrington Legionnaire, weighed about 7 tons empty. Add the gold, which should weigh 4 tons, 3 minis, another 3 tons total, and the crew. You're looking at over 14 tons balanced on a cliff edge. But here's the problem. The bus's center of gravity, even with all that weight in the back, wouldn't allow for that dramatic balance. It would either tip over completely or pull back to safety. There's no middle ground where it could sustain that precarious position. The filmmakers knew this. They tried to film it with a real bus and couldn't make it work. The bus kept pulling itself back onto the road. They tried adding weight to the back, still didn't work. They tried different angles, different cliff edges. Nothing created that perfect balance. So they cheated. The bus was actually held in place by a massive crane just out of shot. Steel cables prevented it from moving in either direction. The seemingly precarious balance was completely artificial. The gold bars sliding in the back, they were on hidden tracks, pulled by invisible wires. The entire scene, one of cinema's most famous endings, is pure movie magic. Michael Caine and the other actors were never in real danger because the bus couldn't actually fall. It was locked in place as securely as a statue. This revelation destroys the tension of the scene once you know it. But it also adds another layer. The culmination of a film full of automotive impossibilities ends with the ultimate impossible automotive moment. A perfect metaphor, really. The entire movie is about defying reality, and it ends with the biggest defiance of all. And there you have it, that's 20 absolutely wild facts about the 1967 Mini Coopers from the Italian Job that prove truth really is stranger than fiction. From fake plates to impossible physics, from destroyed cars to barn, find mysteries, these little British cars created a legend that's still growing over 50 years later. Which fact surprised you the most, and be honest? Did you ever notice that differential mistake? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Oh, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into automotive cinema history, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss our next revelation about your favorite films. Thanks for riding along, and we'll see you next time. Number 20. The entire car is a lie. Let's start with the biggest deception of all. Joe Dirt's beloved Daytona isn't actually a Daytona. Not even close. It's built from a regular 1969 Charger body, specifically an XP29 base model. That's like taking a Honda Civic and trying to pass it off as a Type R, except way more elaborate. The movie producers took a standard Charger and dressed it up to look like the legendary NASCAR homologation special. They added the nose cone, they slapped on that massive rear wing, they even blocked out the rear window to mimic the real Daytona's aerodynamic design. But underneath all that movie magic, it's just a regular Charger pretending to be something it's not. The VIN number tells the whole story. XP29F9B103293. That XP29 code, dead giveaway that this started life as a base model Charger, not the legendary Daytona that only had 503 examples made in 1969. Joe might have been fooled, but now you know the truth. Number 19. The rust is Hollywood makeup. Here's something that'll blow your mind. All that rust covering Joe's car? Completely fake. Every single spot of corrosion, every patch of oxidation, every bit of that crusty, tetanus-inducing surface rust is nothing but automotive makeup. The car was actually in decent shape before they got their hands on it. Think about it. You can't have a movie car breaking down every 5 minutes during filming. So they took a mechanically sound Charger and made it look like it had been sitting in a field for 20 years. Professional prop masters spend hours applying fake rust, creating the perfect patini of neglect. They wanted it to look like a total junker, something that belonged in a scrapyard, not on the road, and they succeeded. The rust job was so convincing that when the car went up for auction, people were shocked to learn it was all cosmetic. Underneath that fake decay was solid metal, no actual rust damage, no structural problems. Just good old Hollywood, magic making a decent car look like garbage. Number 18. It sold for $330,000. Remember how Joe bought his Daytona for $450 in the movie? Well, reality hit a little different when this car crossed the auction block in 2024. Barrett Jackson sold this fake beat-up movie prop for $330,000. Let that sink in. $330,000 for a car that's not even a real Daytona. That's more than most people's houses. You could buy an actual mint condition classic muscle car for that money. Hell, you could buy several. But someone wanted this specific car, rust makeup and all. The crazy part is that real Daytonas sell for way more, often hitting 7 figures. But this fake one, with its Hollywood connection and cult movie status, still commanded serious money. It shows you the power of movie magic. People don't just want a car, they want the story. They want to own a piece of cinema history. And apparently, they're willing to pay luxury supercar money for a Charger dressed up like a Daytona with fake rust and a chain link steering wheel. Number 17. Dick Landy. Tune the engine. Under that beat up hood isn't a Hemi. Nope. It's a 440 cubic inch V8. But here's the kicker. It was tuned by Dick Landy, one of drag racing's most legendary figures. Dick Landy wasn't just some random mechanic. This guy was a Mopar legend who dominated the drag strips in the 60s and 70s. Having him tune your engine was like having Gordon Ramsay cook your dinner. The man knew Chrysler engines inside and out. So while Joe's car might look like trash on the outside, that 440 under the hood was professionally massaged by one of the best in the business. It's hilarious when you think about it. They went through all this trouble to make the car look terrible, then had a racing legend tune the engine to make sure it ran perfectly. That's Hollywood for you. Everything has to work flawlessly, even if it's supposed to look broken. The engine had to be reliable enough to handle multiple takes, stunts, and long filming days. Dick Landy made sure of that. Number 16. The wing and nose cone are movie props. Those iconic Daytona features Joe's so proud of, the massive rear wing and that pointed nose cone, total fakes. They're not genuine Mopar parts, they're movie props designed to look like the real thing from a distance. The production team couldn't find or didn't want to pay for actual Daytona parts, so they fabricated their own. The wing is deliberately oversized, more cartoon than reality. It's bigger than a real Daytona wing because they wanted it to be unmistakable on camera. Same with the nose cone. It's close enough to fool most people, but not quite right if you know what to look for. Real Daytona enthusiasts can spot the differences immediately. The mounting points are wrong, the proportions are off, the materials aren't quite right, but for a comedy movie, perfect. It sells the illusion that Joe's driving this legendary NASCAR homologation special, even though he's really just piloting a dressed-up base model Charger with fake aerodynamic parts bolted on. Number 15. The interior is ridiculously over-the-top step inside Joe's ride, and you're transported to the 70s worst fever dream. We're talking fuzzy seat covers, a chain-link steering wheel, an 8-ball shifter knob dangling from the rearview mirror, and of course a working 8-track player. Because nothing says class like obsolete audio technology, this isn't just random junk thrown together. Every piece was carefully chosen to create the perfect white trash time capsule. The chain-link steering wheel alone is a masterpiece of bad taste. Who thought that was a good idea? It looks like something you'd find at a swap meet in the discount bin. The fuzzy seat covers probably have more DNA on them than a crime scene. And that 8-track player? It actually works, they made sure of it. Because if you're going to have Joe Dirt rocking out to classic rock, you need authentic 70s sound quality. The whole interior is a monument to questionable automotive decisions. It's so perfectly terrible that it becomes iconic. Number 14. It has a footprint gas pedal. Forget everything you know about normal gas pedals. Joe's Daytona has a footprint-shaped accelerator. Yes, you read that right. A footprint. Not a regular pedal. Not even a cool billet aluminum racing pedal. A footprint. Like someone stepped in wet cement and decided that would make a great throttle control. This is peak Joe Dirt energy. It's the kind of modification that makes you question everything. Who makes footprint gas pedals? Where do you even buy something like that? Was there a catalog somewhere with a whole selection of foot-themed automotive accessories? The attention to detail here is incredible. They could have just left the stock pedal and nobody would have noticed. But no. Someone in the prop department decided that Joe Dirt's car needed a footprint gas pedal. And honestly, they were right. It's the perfect touch for a character who thinks a frozen meteor is valuable. It's these little details that make movie cars memorable. Number 13. The mismatched body panels are intentional. Every panel on Joe's car is a different color. The hood doesn't match the fenders, the doors don't match the quarters, nothing matches anything, and it's all completely intentional. The production team deliberately painted each panel a different shade to create that junkyard special look. This wasn't random. They carefully selected colors that would look terrible together. Primer gray here, faded blue there, some original yellow showing through. Maybe a touch of red on the door. It's automotive chaos. The effect is perfect. It tells a story without saying a word. This is a car that's been pieced together from whatever was available. Every panel has supposedly come from a different donor car. It's the automotive equivalent of Frankenstein's monster. But here's the funny part. Underneath all those mismatched colors is a solid, well-maintained body. They just painted over good metal to make it look bad. Number 12. The headlights actually work. Despite looking like it should barely run, let alone have working electronics, Joe's Daytona has fully functional headlights. The hidden headlight system, one of the Charger's coolest features, works perfectly. They didn't cheap out here. When those headlight doors rotate open, revealing the quad round lights, it's smooth as butter. No stuttering, no grinding, no half-open struggles like you'd expect from a neglected car. This is another example of Hollywood's weird priorities. The car has to look terrible, but work perfectly. Those headlight motors, which are notorious for failing on real Chargers after decades of use, had to work flawlessly for multiple takes. Imagine if they had to stop filming every time the headlights got stuck. The production would have been a nightmare. So they made sure everything worked, then covered it all in fake rust and mismatched paint. Number 11. David Spade bought a real one for $900,000. Here's where things get really interesting. After playing Joe Dirt, David Spade went out and bought himself a real 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona. Not a clone, not a replica, the real deal. And he paid $900,000 for it. His Daytona has the rare Hemi and 4-speed manual combination, making it one of the most desirable muscle cars on the planet. Think about that. Spade spent almost 3 times what the movie car sold for, and he got an actual Daytona. The contrast is perfect. In the movie, he plays a guy who thinks he got a deal on a beat-up Daytona for $450. In real life, he drops nearly $1 million on a pristine example. That's either method acting taken to the extreme, or just a guy who really fell in love with Mopars after making the movie. Either way, it shows how iconic these cars really are. Number 10. The blocked rear window mimics aerodynamics. Real Daytonas have a unique rear window treatment designed for aerodynamics. The movie car recreates this by completely blocking out the rear window, but they didn't just paint it black and call it a day. They actually plugged it to match the distinctive Daytona profile. This attention to detail is what sells the illusion. From a distance, especially in motion, you'd swear you're looking at a real Daytona. The blocked window creates that distinctive silhouette that racing fans recognize instantly. NASCAR required these modifications for homologation, and the movie car mimics them perfectly. It's funny because Joe probably can't see anything out the back. Zero rear visibility. But who needs to see behind you when you're living life a quarter mile at a time? Or in Joe's case, living life one mullet flip at a time. The blocked window also adds to the car's mysterious appearance. You can't see inside from the back, adding to its intimidating presence. Number 9. It has power. Steering, and disc brakes. For a car that's supposed to be a barely running piece of junk, Joe's ride has some surprisingly modern conveniences. Power steering and front disc brakes aren't exactly what you'd expect on a $450 beater. These upgrades were essential for filming. The car needed to be easy to drive for multiple takes, stunts, and long shooting days. Power steering meant David Spade could whip it around without looking like he was wrestling a bear. The disc brakes meant they could stop reliably, take after take. Safety first, even on a comedy set. But it creates this weird disconnect. The car looks like it should barely start, yet it has better brakes than many cars from that area it came with stock. It's like finding air conditioning in a cave. Sure, it's nice to have, but it kind of ruins the authenticity. Though, let's be real, nobody watching Joe Dirt is worried about automotive authenticity. Number 8. The production Daytona numbers make the fake even funnier. Here's some context that makes Joe's car even more ridiculous. Dodge only made 503 Daytonas in 1969. That's it, 503 total. They were homologation specials built so Dodge could race in NASCAR. Each one was hand-built, expensive, and incredibly rare even when new. So the idea that Joe found one for $450, even a beat-up one, is absolutely insane. Real Daytonas were collector items by the time the movie was made. Even a rusty, non-running real Daytona would have been worth serious money. But that's the joke. Joe thinks he scored the deal of the century, when really, he probably just had a regular Charger with some weird modifications. Life imitating art, imitating life. The movie car is a fake Daytona, playing a fake Daytona, that the character thinks is real. It's layers upon layers of automotive deception. Number 7. New brake lines and steering components were hidden. When the car sold at Barrett-Jackson, the listing revealed something interesting. Despite its appearance, the car had new brake hoses, fresh steering components, and a proper fuel cell. All the important safety stuff was brand new, but you'd never know it looking at the car. They hid all these new parts under layers of fake aging. Fresh brake lines were made to look old, new steering components were artificially weathered. Even the fuel cell was disguised to look period correct. It's like wearing designer clothes but covering them in fake dirt. Everything that matters is top quality, but they went to great lengths to hide it. This is Hollywood in a nutshell. Safety and reliability first, appearance second. But make the appearance so convincing that nobody notices the modern upgrades underneath. Number 6. The movie claimed the car cost $450. In the movie, Joe, proudly tells everyone he bought his Daytona for $450. This is played for laughs because even in 2001, that would have been impossibly cheap for any running car, let alone a Daytona. The joke works on multiple levels. First, real Daytonas were already worth hundreds of thousands by then. Second, even a regular Charger in terrible condition would cost more. Third, Joe's pride in this deal shows how clueless he really is. But here's the meta joke. The producers probably spent more on the fake rust paint job than Joe supposedly paid for the entire car. The chain link steering wheel alone probably cost more than $450. That footprint gas pedal. Definitely custom made, definitely not cheap. It's brilliant writing when you think about it. The character thinks he got an amazing deal on a rare car, but he actually overpaid for a fake that's falling apart. Number 5. The car was restored, before being made to look bad. This might be the weirdest fact of all. Before the production team turned it into Joe Dirt's ride, the base Charger was actually restored. They started with a decent car, fixed it up, made sure everything worked properly, then deliberately made it look terrible. That's like buying a new suit, getting it tailored perfectly, then dragging it through mud. But it makes sense from a production standpoint. You need a reliable car for filming, can't have breakdowns ruining expensive shooting days. So they started with quality and worked backwards. Every bit of damage was carefully planned. Every rusty spot was deliberately placed. Every mechanical issue was just cosmetic. The car ran perfectly while looking like it shouldn't run at all. It's the ultimate Hollywood contradiction. Spend money to make something look cheap. Fix something just to make it look broken. Number 4. People thought it was a real barn. Find. The fake rust and aging were so convincing that many people thought the movie car was an actual barn find that the producers discovered and used for filming. Forums lit up with people claiming they knew where the car had been found. Stories circulated about it being pulled from a field in Kansas or discovered in an abandoned garage in Detroit. None of it was true. The car was built specifically for the movie, but the legend grew anyway. People wanted to believe that this piece of automotive history had been rescued from obscurity. Even after the truth came out, some people refused to believe it. They were convinced the "it's all fake" story was the real cover-up. That's how good the prop department's work was. They created something so authentically beat up that people couldn't accept it was artificial. Number 3, the clone status makes it more collectible. Here's something weird about collector cars. Sometimes fakes become more valuable than lesser real examples. Joe Dirt's Charger is now worth more than many genuine classic muscles cars because of its Hollywood connection. It's not a real Daytona, but it played one in a cult classic movie. That gives it a provenance that no regular Charger can match. It's been on the big screen. David Spade sat in that chain link steering wheel seat. Millions of people have seen this car. That cultural significance transcends authenticity. A real Daytona is about racing history and rarity. Joe's fake Daytona is about comedy history and pop culture. Both have value, just different kinds. The $330,000 auction price proves that movie cars have their own collector market. People want to own pieces of cinema, even if those pieces are elaborate fakes. Number 2, the cosmetic rust fooled everyone. Let's go deeper into how incredibly well done the fake rust was. The prop team used multiple techniques to create different types of corrosion. Surface rust in some spots, deep pitting in others, even fake rust holes that looked completely real. They studied actual rusty cars to get the patterns right. Rust doesn't just appear randomly, it follows moisture patterns, attacks seams first, and spreads in specific ways. The team replicated all of this. They even added fake rust stains running down from trim pieces. You know, those orange streaks that make car guys cry, all painted on, all removable, all totally convincing. The most impressive part? It held up under close camera scrutiny. HD cameras show everything, but the rust still looked real. That's master level prop work. When professionals fool other professionals, you know they've done something special. Number 1, it's actually a well-built machine. The ultimate irony of Joe Dirt's Daytona is that underneath all the fake decay and deliberate ugliness is an extremely well-built car. The engine, tuned by Dick Landy, runs perfectly. The transmission shifts smoothly. The suspension is properly sorted. The brakes work flawlessly. The electrical system is reliable. Everything functions exactly as it should. This is a car that could probably cruise cross-country without breaking a sweat. It just looks like it would fall apart before leaving the parking lot. In many ways, it's better built than a real 1969 Daytona would be today. It has modern safety upgrades, The mechanicals have been gone through by professionals. It's been maintained to Hollywood standards, which means everything has to work perfectly, repeatedly, under difficult conditions. The fake Daytona is more reliable than most real vintage muscle cars. It just happens to be wearing the automotive equivalent of zombie makeup. $330,000 bought someone a perfectly running classic Charger that looks like garbage, but drives like a dream. And there you have it, 20 absolutely bizarre facts about Joe Dirt's fake 1969 Charger Daytona that prove Hollywood car magic is stranger than fiction. From the Dick Landy tuned engine hiding under fake rust, to David Spade dropping 900 grand on a real one, this movie, Car Story, is wilder than the film itself. Did any of these facts blow your mind? Let us know in the comments which one surprised you the most. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive into movie car mysteries, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next video about Hollywood's most legendary fake cars. Thanks for watching, and remember, life's a garden, dig it. Number 20. The name is an intentional insult. Let's start with the most obvious yet brilliant detail about this car. The name 6000 SUX isn't just a bad naming decision, it's intentionally ironic. SUX literally means sucks, so the car's name reads as 6000 sucks. Think about that for a second. Someone in the Robocop universe approved a luxury car model that tells customers it's terrible right on the badge. The marketing department either had the best sense of humor in automotive history or the worst judgment ever. And here's the kicker. People in the movie actually buy these things. They drive around in cars that literally announce they suck. It's like wearing a shirt that says I make bad decisions, except it costs tens of thousands of dollars and gets terrible gas mileage. The filmmakers weren't being subtle about their satire here. They wanted you to know immediately that this car represented everything wrong with corporate excess and consumer stupidity. Number 19, 8.2, miles per gallon of pure inefficiency. In an era when even 1980s cars were starting to think about fuel efficiency, the 6000 SUX proudly advertised 8.2 miles per gallon. Not as a flaw, as a feature. This wasn't hidden in the fine print or discovered during testing. The movie shows this number right in the fake commercial. They're bragging about it, 8.2 miles per gallon, in a future where resources are supposedly scarce and Detroit is falling apart. It's like advertising a boat with built-in holes. The car basically drinks gasoline like a fraternity brother at spring break. You'd need to stop for gas every 100 miles. Your fuel bill would be higher than your mortgage payment. And remember, this is supposed to be the future where technology should have improved. Instead, they went backwards, way backwards. The 6000 SUX makes a Hummer look like a Prius. Number 18. Built on a 1977 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. Here's where movie magic meets junkyard reality. The futuristic 6000 SUX that's supposed to be from 2043. It's actually built on a 1977 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme chassis. The production team took a car that was already a decade old when they filmed Robocop and dressed it up to look like the future, but not a good future. A terrible future where car design went horribly wrong. They added fiberglass body panels, weird air intakes, and chrome everywhere. But underneath all that flash, it's still running on 40-year-old technology by the movie's timeline. The irony is perfect. A car marketed as cutting-edge luxury in 2043 is actually using mechanical parts from the disco era. It's like selling a smartphone that runs on vacuum tubes. The Cutlass Supreme wasn't even a particularly special car to begin with. It was just a standard American sedan that the filmmakers transformed into a monument to bad taste. Number 17. The fake commercial features a roaring dinosaur. The 6000 SUX gets its own commercial within the movie, and it's absolutely insane. The ad features an actual roaring dinosaur, not a subtle dinosaur, not a metaphorical dinosaur, a full-on prehistoric beast roaring at the camera. The tagline, "Big is back because bigger is better." The commercial literally compares the car to an extinct species known for being too large to survive. Talk about missing the point. Or maybe that was the point. The dinosaur symbolizes everything about the 6000 SUX. It's huge, inefficient, outdated, and heading for extinction. But they're selling it as a positive, like saying our car is as practical as a meteor strike. The voiceover proudly declares it an American tradition while the dinosaur roars. Because nothing says American tradition like comparing your product to something that went extinct 65 million years ago. The whole commercial is maybe 30 seconds long, but it tells you everything about this dystopian future's values. Number 16. Triple exhaust system for maximum obnoxiousness. Most cars have one exhaust pipe. Sports cars might have two, The 6000 SUX, it has 3 exhaust pipes mounted in the rear center. 3. Because when you're getting 8.2 miles per gallon, you need extra pipes to expel all those emissions. The triple exhaust isn't there for performance. The car still uses the original Cutlass engine. It's purely for show, like wearing 3 watches on one arm. It serves no practical purpose except to announce that subtlety is dead. The center mounted position makes it even more ridiculous. Usually exhausts are tucked to the side or hidden under the bumper, not on the 6000 SUX. Those 3 pipes are front and center, proudly polluting the air behind you. It's almost aggressive in its wastefulness. Every time someone starts this car, it's like firing 3 smoke signals that spell out, "I have more money than sense." Number 15. Clarence's gang uses it as their crime mobile. In Robocop, the 6000 SUX isn't driven by corporate executives or suburban families. It's the official vehicle of Clarence Boddicker's gang of murderous criminals. These are the bad guys who literally blow up cop cars and laugh about it. And their ride of choice? The luxury sedan that sucks. There's something perfect about violent criminals choosing the worst car possible. It fits their character perfectly. They're excessive, wasteful, and make terrible decisions. Just like buying a 6000 SUX. The gang treats these cars as disposable too. They blow them up, crash them, abandon them. Because when your car literally has sucks in the name, why would you take care of it? The fact that criminals can afford these supposedly luxury vehicles says something about the economy in future Detroit. Either crime pays really well, or these cars are actually terrible investments that depreciate faster than ice cream in the sun. Number 14. Reclining leather seats in a death trap. When asked what kind of car he wants, one character specifically requests something with reclining leather seats that goes really fast and gets really terrible gas mileage. The answer? The 6000 SUX, because apparently, in 2043, those are the 3 main criteria for luxury. Not safety, not reliability, not even basic functionality, just leather seats that recline, speed, and awful fuel economy. The reclining leather seats become even more ironic when you realize the car explodes. If you look at it wrong, you're literally reclining into danger. It's like putting a massage chair in a minefield. Sure, you're comfortable, but you're also one pothole away from becoming a statistic. The leather probably costs more than the actual safety features, if there even are any safety features, which, judging by how easily these cars explode in the movie, seems doubtful. Number 13. The Cobra Assault Cannon Scene. One of the most memorable 6000 SUX moments involves someone pulling a Cobra assault cannon from the trunk and using it to blow up another 6000 SUX. The car doesn't just get damaged, it completely explodes. From one shot, this isn't normal car vulnerability, this is video game levels of fragility. The scene plays it completely straight too. Nobody comments on how easily the car exploded. It's just accepted that 6000 SUXs are basically bombs on wheels. The fact that criminals keep military-grade weapons in the trunk says something too. Either the trunk is surprisingly spacious, or the car attracts the kind of owners who need assault cannons for their daily commute. The destroyed car probably had an owner still making payments on it. Imagine explaining that to your insurance company. Sorry, my luxury sedan got hit by a cannon in a mall parking lot. Number 12. A grotesque exaggeration of 70s American luxury. The 6000 SUX doesn't predict the future of car design. It exaggerates the worst of past design. It takes every bad idea from 1970s, American luxury sedans, and cranks them up to 11. The huge size, the chrome everywhere, the complete disregard for efficiency. It's like someone looked at the worst cars of the Malaise era and said, let's make them worse. The car represents a future where nobody learned from past mistakes, where bigger really is considered better, even when it's obviously worse. It's a 4-wheeled monument to American excess that somehow got worse over time. In real life, cars were getting more efficient and better designed by 1987, but in Robocop's 2043, they've gone backwards. They've taken the worst aspects of 70s design and made them worse. The 6000 SUX is what happens when nostalgia meets incompetence. Number 11. Mocking the real Pontiac 6000. Here's a detail that's easy to miss. The 6000 SUX name is a direct parody of a real car, the Pontiac 6000, which was an actual model being sold when Robocop was filmed. The Pontiac 6000 was a typical 80s family sedan. Not particularly good, not particularly bad, just mediocre. So the filmmakers took that mediocrity and asked, what if we made it actively terrible? The joke works on multiple levels. First, it's mocking a real car that audiences would recognize. Second, it's suggesting that in the future, car names get even stupider. Third, it's literally adding sucks to an existing model name. Pontiac probably wasn't thrilled about the parody, but then again, the real 6000 wasn't exactly flying off dealer lots either. The 6000 SUX just took the real car's problems and made them selling points. Number 10. Style over substance design philosophy. Even though the 6000 SUX looks flashy with its fiberglass body panels and custom work, the interior and engine remain completely stock from the old Cutlass. It's all show, no go. The car is basically wearing a tuxedo over pajamas. The exterior screams luxury and excess, but pop the hood and you're looking at decade-old technology. The interior still has the original Cutlass dashboard, steering wheel, and controls. They didn't even bother updating the radio. You're driving a 2043 luxury car with 1977 technology. It's like buying a mansion and finding out all the rooms are actually cardboard boxes. The contrast between exterior flash and interior trash perfectly captures the movie's critique of surface-level luxury. People buy the 6000 SUX for how it looks, not how it works, which, considering how it works, is probably for the best. Number 9. Mirrors that fall off during chase scenes. During one chase scene, a mirror literally falls off the 6000 SUX. Not from impact, not from a collision, it just falls off. From normal driving. Well, normal for a chase scene. This wasn't a special effects accident either. It was intentionally cheap construction for comedic effect. Imagine paying luxury car prices for a vehicle whose parts fall off during regular use. It's like buying a Rolex that loses its hands when you check at the time. The mirror falling off becomes a perfect metaphor for the car itself. Everything about the 6000 SUX is barely holding together. It's all facade with no foundation. The criminals driving it don't even react to losing the mirror. They're probably used to it. Parts falling off the 6000 SUX is just part of the ownership experience, like changing oil or filling up every 50 miles. Number 8. An American tradition of failure. The 6000 SUX tagline. An American tradition is loaded with irony. In a world where Detroit is literally falling apart and American industry has collapsed, this terrible car represents tradition. But what tradition? The tradition of making bad cars, the tradition of ignoring efficiency, the tradition of style over substance, all of the above apparently. The tagline suggests that making terrible decisions is somehow patriotic. That waste and excess are American values worth preserving. Even as the city crumbles around them, they're still making and selling these automotive disasters. It's like celebrating a tradition of failure. The car becomes a symbol of everything wrong with American industrial decline. Yet, it's marketed as something to be proud of. The 2043 setting makes it even more tragic. They've had decades to fix these problems, and instead, they've made them worse. Number 7. Fan communities set the year at 2043. While the film never explicitly states what year it takes place, fan communities and prop evidence point to 2043. That's 56 years after the movie was made. The filmmakers imagined what cars would look like in half a century and came up with something worse than what existed in 1987. Think about that timeline. In 56 years, car technology somehow went backwards. While real cars were getting computers and fuel injection, the 6000 SUX proudly runs on 70s technology with 80s excess. The 2043 date appears on various props and promotional materials. It's far enough in the future to be science fiction, but close enough to be a warning. The 6000 SUX isn't just a bad car, it's a bad car from a future that learned nothing. By 2043, we should have flying cars. Instead, Robocop gives us cars that barely run on the ground. Number 6. Licensed models and toys now exist. Here's where fiction becomes reality in the weirdest way. You can now buy officially licensed 6000 SUX models and toy sets. Companies like Blue Bricks make detailed replicas of the worst car in cinema. People actually pay money to own miniature versions of a car that literally has sucks in its name. The models are surprisingly detailed too. They include the triple exhausts, the ridiculous body styling, even the fragile mirrors. It's like merchandising failure. The toy versions probably run better than the fictional car they're based on. Collectors seek these out. They display them proudly. There are forums dedicated to discussing 6000 SUX models. The car that was designed to be terrible has become a beloved piece of pop culture. The irony would probably delight the filmmakers. They created a car so memorably bad that people want to own replicas of it 35 years later. Number 5. 2 fully operational cars were built. The production team didn't just mock up one 6000 SUX for the film. They built 2 fully operational vehicles plus parts of a third for the explosion scenes. These aren't just shells or props, they're actual driving cars. Terrible driving cars, but driving nonetheless. Building multiple versions shows the commitment to the bit. They needed backups because, true to the car's reputation, they kept breaking down. The 2 complete cars are now among the rarest movie props in existence. Occasionally one surfaces at an auction or in a collection. Imagine owning an actual 6000 SUX. You'd have the worst car ever made, but also one of the coolest pieces of movie history. The third partial car was specifically built to be destroyed, because when your car's name includes sucks, you know it's going to explode at some point. Number 4. Blaupunkt radio in a dystopian nightmare. Among the luxury features touted for the 6000 SUX is a Blaupunkt radio. In the 1980s, Blaupunkt was considered premium audio. So naturally, the 6000 SUX has one. Because nothing says dystopian future like listening to high-quality audio while your car gets 8.2 miles per gallon. The radio is probably worth more than the engine. It's like putting a silk bow tie on a garbage bag. Sure, it's fancy, but it's still trash. The Blaupunkt radio becomes another layer of the satire. They've prioritized entertainment over basic functionality. You can listen to crystal clear music while your car falls apart around you. The radio probably works better than anything else in the car. Because in 2043, they've mastered audio technology, but somehow forgotten how to make efficient engines. Number 3, still got the factory sticker. On it, in fan communities, there's a running joke about the 6000 SUX still having its factory sticker. Because of course it does. It's the kind of detail that makes the car even more ridiculous. Criminals driving around in luxury cars with the price tag still attached, like they're either showing off or planning to return it. The factory sticker becomes a symbol of the car's disposable nature. Why remove it when the car might explode tomorrow? The sticker probably lists all the features. 8.2 miles per gallon. Check. Mirrors that fall off. Check. Explodes when shot. Check. It's truth in advertising at its finest. The sticker might be the only honest thing about the car. While the commercials promise luxury and tradition, the sticker probably lists all the ways it will disappoint you. Number 2. Design inspiration from European luxury cars. Visually, the 6000 SUX draws inspiration from European models like the Rover SD1 and Citroën CX. But it takes that European sophistication and gives it an aggressively American interpretation. It's like someone described European luxury cars over a bad phone connection, and this is what came out. The sleek lines of the Rover become bloated excess. The innovative design of the Citroën becomes gaudy decoration. It's cultural appropriation at its worst. They've taken everything elegant about European design and made it loud, wasteful, and obnoxious. The 6000 SUX is what happens when you try to copy homework but don't understand the assignment. The European influence makes the failure even more pronounced. They had good examples to follow. They just chose to ignore everything that made those examples good. Instead, they created a Frankenstein's monster of automotive design that insults both American and European car traditions. Number 1, the perfect symbol of corporate dystopia. The 6000 SUX isn't just a bad car, it's the perfect symbol of everything wrong with Robocop's dystopian future. In a world where the police are privatized, corporations rule everything, and crime is rampant, of course the luxury car would be terrible. It represents a society that's forgotten what quality means. Where marketing trumps merit, where bigger is always considered better, even when it's obviously worse. The car exists in a world where OCP, the Omni Consumer Products Corporation, controls everything. And this is what they produce. A car that literally tells you it sucks. The 6000 SUX becomes a character in itself. It represents the villains who drive it, the society that created it, and the future nobody wants. Every time it appears on screen, it reminds you that this is a world where everything has gone wrong, even especially the cars. In the end, the 6000 SUX achieved immortality by being memorably terrible. It's a masterpiece of satire, a brilliant piece of production design, and the worst car in cinema history. And there you have it. That's 20 weird facts about Clarence's 2043 OCP 6000 SUX from Robocop. A car so terrible it literally has sucks in the name, yet somehow became one of the most memorable vehicles in movie history. Did any of these facts surprise you? Have you ever wanted to own a car that gets 8.2 miles per gallon just for the irony? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this dive into dystopian automotive disasters, Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more weird facts about movie props, retro futurism, and the strangest vehicles ever put on film. Thanks for watching, and remember, bigger isn't always better, especially when it comes to cars from the future. Number 20. The mystery of the model year. Here's where things get weird right off the bat. Everyone calls it a 1973 Ford Condor 2, but here's the thing. Many sources actually list it as a 1972 model. The confusion comes from multiple automotive databases and registry sites that can't seem to agree. The 73 designation has become part of movie mythology, but the truth is murkier than Eddie's holding tank. Some enthusiast sites insist it's a 72, while others swear by 73. This debate has been raging among RV collectors and movie prop enthusiasts for decades. The discrepancy might seem minor, but for collectors trying to find an exact match, that 1 year difference matters. It's like the automotive world's version of the Berenstain Bears mystery. Number 19. Built on a beast of a chassis. This thing wasn't built on your typical van platform like most RVs of the era. No, the Condor 2 was constructed on a Ford P-Series medium-duty truck chassis. We're talking about the Ford M504 platform here. This wasn't designed for comfortable family road trips. This was a workhorse chassis meant for delivery trucks and commercial vehicles. The weight alone was staggering. We're talking about a vehicle that tipped the scales at levels that would make modern RV manufacturers cringe. The suspension was truck grade, which meant every bump felt like hitting a pothole with a shopping cart. But that beefy construction also meant it could take a beating, which explains how the movie version survived all those years. Number 18. Condor Motorhomes was already dead. Here's something spooky. By the time Christmas Vacation was filmed in 1989, Condor Motorhomes had been out of business for over a decade. The company shut down operations in the late 1970s, making any surviving Condor 2 units increasingly rare. Think about that. They picked a motorhome from a defunct manufacturer for the movie. Whether this was intentional or just lucky casting for the prop department, it added to the RV's aura of being from another era. Finding replacement parts for these things today is like searching for unicorn tears. The fact that the movie RV survived and still exists is nothing short of miraculous. Number 17, it was actually a luxury RV plot twist. Despite its horrific appearance in the movie, the Condor 2 was originally marketed as a luxury motorhome. We're talking dual air, conditioning units, a built-in vacuum system, convolution comfort accessories that were cutting edge for the early 70s. These things had features that wouldn't become standard in RVs for another decade. The interior originally boasted high-end wood paneling, plush seating, and amenities that put it in the premium category. The transformation from luxury vehicle to Eddie's tenement on wheels required serious Hollywood magic. They basically took a Cadillac and turned it into a junker for comedic effect. Number 16. The 390 cubic inch beast. Under the hood, mechanically, these Condor 2s packed a Ford 390 cubic inch V8 engine. That's 6.4 liters of pure 1970s American muscle. But here's the thing. All that power was necessary just to move this behemoth down the road. The heavy automatic transmission paired with it was built for durability, not speed. Gas mileage? Forget about it. We're talking single digits on a good day, with a tailwind, going downhill. The engine note was distinctive too. You could hear one of these things coming from blocks away. It wasn't the good kind of V8 rumble either. It was more like a tired elephant trying to climb stairs. Number 15, the rust was fake. That beautiful patina of rust and decay covering Eddie's RV, totally fake. The art department painted on most of the weathering effects. The actual body of the RV was in far better condition than what appeared on screen. Hollywood magic struck again. They used special painting techniques to create the illusion of decades of neglect. The wood paneling that looked ready to fall off was actually secured quite well. Even those dents and dings were carefully crafted illusions. The prop masters wanted it to look like it had survived nuclear winter, but they still needed it functional enough to drive for multiple takes. Number 14. The storm drain scene. Created history. Eddie's infamous waste tank emptying scene has become one of the most quoted moments on holiday movie history. Shitter was full, but here's the weird part. That scene almost didn't make it into the movie. Test audiences loved it so much that they expanded Eddie's role in the final cut. The RV's waste management system became a character unto itself. The scene has inspired countless memes, merchandise, and even Halloween costumes. People dress up as Eddie in his bathrobe with a beer and a toy RV waist hose. That's cultural impact right there. Number 13. It still exists and tours museums. The actual RV from the movie didn't end up in a junkyard. It's been preserved and displayed at various museums. Castle Knoll in Medina, Ohio had it on display. It appeared at the 2018 Atlanta Motorama. This thing has become a traveling piece of American cinema history. Fans line up to take photos with it. Some people have emotional reactions seeing it in person. It's like meeting a celebrity, except the celebrity is a 40-year-old motorhome. The current owner reportedly gets offers to buy it regularly, but it's essentially priceless at this point. Number 12. Full-scale replicas are being built. The RV has become so iconic that enthusiasts are building exact replicas. We're talking about people who study every frame of the movie to get the rust patterns right. They source period-correct Condor 2s or similar RVs and transform them. The wood paneling stripes have to be perfect, the color has to match exactly. Some builders even age the interior to match what's briefly shown in the film. These replicas show up at Christmas events and car shows. One guy in Illinois spent 3 years building his replica and now rents it out for holiday parties. Number 11. The borrowed from a buddy line was pure fiction. In the movie, Eddie says he borrowed the RV from a buddy who took the house, I took the RV. This backstory was completely fabricated for the film. There was no actual buddy, no real divorce settlement involving an RV trade. But this line has become so embedded in pop culture that people reference it when talking about bad divorces or terrible trades. The writers created this throwaway line that perfectly encapsulated Eddie's character and situation. It's brilliant in its simplicity and has outlived many more elaborate movie plots. Number 10. It weighs more than most modern RVs. The Ford P-Series chassis and the Condor 2T body combined created a vehicle that was absurdly heavy by today's standards. We're talking about a gross vehicle weight that would require a special license in some states today. The frame alone weighed more than some entire modern travel trailers. This weight affected everything. Acceleration was measured in geological time, stopping distances were measured in city blocks. Going up hills required planning and prayer. The fuel tank held enough gas to drain a small oil field. Modern RV manufacturers would look at these specs and laugh, then cry, then laugh again. Number 9. The manufacturer was obscure. Even in its heyday, Condor Motorhomes was never a major player in the RV industry. Even during their peak years in the early to mid-70s, they were considered a boutique manufacturer. They produced limited numbers compared to giants like Winnebago or Airstream. Finding information about the company today is like archaeological work. There are no corporate archives, no official records. Most of what we know comes from old advertisements and registration documents. The obscurity adds to the mystique. It's like Eddie's RV came from some alternate universe where different RV companies existed. Number 8. The windshield was unusually large. One distinctive feature of the Condor 2 was its massive windshield. For a 70s RV, this was progressive design. The visibility was actually excellent for the driver, which is ironic considering how badly Eddie seems to drive it in the movie. The windshield was expensive to replace, even back then. Today, finding a replacement would be nearly impossible. You'd have to have one custom made. The size of the glass also contributed to the greenhouse effect inside. Without those dual AC units running, the interior would become an oven in summer. But it did give the RV a unique face that made it instantly recognizable. Number 7. Christmas ornaments and models exist. The cultural impact of Eddie's RV extends to Christmas decorations. Multiple companies have produced Christmas ornaments featuring the RV. We're talking about detailed miniatures that people hang on their trees. Model kit manufacturers have released buildable versions. Die-cast collectors can find various scales of the Condor 2. Some of these collectibles sell for hundreds of dollars. There's even a slot car version for those vintage racing sets. The irony of a decrepit RV becoming a cherished holiday decoration isn't lost on anyone. It's become as much a part of Christmas tradition as the movie itself. Number 6. It inspired a generation of RV jokes. Before Christmas Vacation, RV humor was pretty tame. After Eddie's Condor 2 appeared, the entire genre of RV comedy changed. The vehicle became shorthand for every relative who shows up uninvited, every broken down camper in a driveway, every camping trip gone wrong. Stand-up comedians reference it, sitcoms pay homage to it. The RV transcended its role as a prop and became a cultural touchstone. When someone says their in-laws arrived in an RV, Everyone immediately thinks of Eddie's Condor too. That's lasting impact. Number 5. The interior was barely shown, but carefully designed. Despite limited screen time for the interior, the prop department fully dressed it. Every detail was considered. The wood paneling inside matched the era perfectly. The fixtures were period correct. The upholstery pattern screamed 1970s. They even added personal touches suggesting Eddie's family had been living in it. Empty beer cans in specific locations, clothing draped just so, kids' toys scattered strategically. Most of this is barely visible in the film, but it was all there. The attention to detail for something hardly seen shows the commitment to authenticity. Number 4. The driving scenes required special permits. If filming the RV driving scenes wasn't simple, due to its size and the fact it was technically a commercial vehicle chassis, special permits were required. The insurance alone was a nightmare. They needed specialized drivers for some shots. The RV's turning radius was so bad they had to carefully plan every corner. Some residential streets couldn't accommodate it. They had to strengthen certain driveways for the scenes where it parks. The logistics of moving this beast around for filming added significantly to the production budget. Every mile that thing drove cost money in fuel and crew time. Number 3, people have traveled cross-country to see it. When the RV appears at events, fans make pilgrimages. We're talking about people driving hundreds of miles just to see Eddie's RV in person. They plan vacations around its appearance schedule. There are online forums dedicated to tracking its location. Photos with the RV get thousands of likes on social media. Some fans have admitted to getting emotional when seeing it. It represents childhood memories of watching the movie with family. The RV has become a mobile shrine to holiday nostalgia. Security is sometimes required at events because people want to touch it or peek inside. Number 2. Modern safety standards would never allow it. If you tried to manufacture the Condor 2 today, it would fail every safety test imaginable. No crumple zones, no airbags. The seatbelts were afterthoughts. The center of gravity was dangerously high. Rollover risk was substantial. The brake system was primitive by modern standards. No anti-lock anything. No stability control. The fuel tank location would violate current regulations. The electrical system was a fire waiting to happen. Child safety features were non-existent. It's a rolling reminder of how far vehicle safety has come. The fact that families actually traveled in these things cross-country in the 70s is mind-boggling by today's standards. Number 1, it's worth more as a movie prop than it ever was new. Here's the ultimate irony. Eddie's beat-up Condor 2 is now worth exponentially more than it cost brand new in 1973. A new Condor 2 in the early 70s sold for around $15,000 to $20,000. That's about $100,000 in today's money. But the actual movie RV, estimates put its value at several $100,000, possibly more. It's not just an RV anymore. It's a piece of cinema history. It's been authenticated, documented, and preserved. Insurance companies struggle to value it because there's nothing comparable. No auction house has ever sold the actual hero prop from Christmas Vacation. If it ever went to auction, the bidding war would be legendary. Collectors, museums, and wealthy fans would compete fiercely. The RV that represented failure and embarrassment in the movie has become a priceless treasure in real life. And there you have it. 20 absolutely wild facts about Eddie's Condor 2 RV that prove this rusty beast is way more than just a movie prop. It's become a cultural icon that represents everything wonderfully chaotic about family holidays. Did any of these facts surprise you? Do you have your own memories of seeing this magnificent disaster on screen? Drop them in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this journey through RV history, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We've got plenty more weird facts about your favorite holiday movies coming up. Thanks for watching, and remember, if the shitter's full, you know who to call. Number 20. The car is living a double life. Here's where things get weird right off the bat. Al Bundy constantly refers to his car as a Dodge. He's proud of his Dodge. He defends his Dodge. He would never, ever drive anything but a Dodge. There's just one small problem. It's not a Dodge, it's actually a Plymouth Duster, specifically from around 1971 or 72. Now, you might think this is just a production mistake, but no. The show deliberately has Al calling it a Dodge throughout all 11 seasons while we're clearly looking at a Plymouth. It's like if someone kept insisting their cat was a dog while the cat sits there, meowing. The writers knew, the producers knew. They just decided to gaslight us all for over a decade, and somehow it worked. Number 19, the mysterious color-changing paint job. Remember when you were a kid and you had those Hot Wheels that change color in water? Well, Al's car did that too, except nobody ever explained why. The show used multiple physical cars over its run, and each one was painted a different color. First, there was a blue model in the early seasons. Then suddenly it became bronze or tan, and eventually it turned red. But here's the kicker. The show never acknowledges these color changes, not once. Al never mentions getting a paint job. Nobody comments on the new look. The car just mysteriously transforms colors between seasons like some kind of automotive chameleon. It's as if the producers thought we wouldn't notice, or maybe they were testing how much continuity chaos viewers could handle before losing their minds. Number 18, the Million Mile Miracle. In one episode, the odometer on Al's car shows approximately 800,000 miles. Later, it's approaching 1 million miles. 1 million. Let that sink in. Most cars are ready for the scrapyard at 200,000 miles. 300,000 if you're lucky. But Al's Plymouth, pretending to be a Dodge, has driven the equivalent of circling the Earth 40 times. And it's still running. Sort of. This isn't just unrealistic, it's physically impossible. The engine would have disintegrated. The frame would have rusted into dust. The seats would have compressed into molecular particles. But in the Bundy universe, this car just keeps going like some kind of cursed immortal vehicle that refuses to die. Number 17, the screwdriver key. Innovation. You know how most people use keys to start their cars? Well, Al Bundy isn't most people. In several episodes, his car key is shown to be a screwdriver. Just a regular screwdriver, not a special ignition tool, not some high-tech device. A screwdriver. This detail perfectly captures the car's last-ditch repair status. It's held together by hope, duct tape, and apparently started with hardware store tools. The fact that Al carries around a screwdriver instead of car keys and nobody finds this strange tells you everything about the Bundy family's relationship with normalcy. Number 16, the Frankenstein's monster. Theory. According to the show's lore, Al's car might be made from the parts of other dead Dodges, or Plymouths, or whatever they could find in the junkyard that week. The show jokes that it's cobbled together from automotive corpses, like some kind of vehicular Frankenstein's monster. This actually explains a lot. Why the color keeps changing. Different body panels. Why it won't die. It's already undead. Why Al insists it's a Dodge when it's clearly a Plymouth. Maybe the engine is from a Dodge. Or the steering wheel. Or that one bolt holding the bumper on. It's less of a car and more of an automotive greatest hits compilation. Number 15, the brand loyalty paradox. Here's where Al's car situation gets even more confusing. Plymouth and Dodge were both under the same parent company, Chrysler. They shared platforms, engines, and many components. Yet Al loudly and repeatedly insists he would only drive a Dodge. He actively declines Plymouth vehicles. He's disgusted by the mere suggestion of owning a Plymouth. Meanwhile, he's literally driving a Plymouth every single day. It's like refusing to eat at McDonald's while sitting in a McDonald's. Eating a Big Mac, but insisting it's actually Burger King. The cognitive dissonance is spectacular. Number 14, the car wash revelation. In the episode Get the Dodge Out of Hell, we discover something shocking about Al's car. The family has been seeing it as brown or tan for years. They just assumed that was its color, then they wash it, and suddenly, it's red. The car was so dirty, so covered in decades of grime and neglect that nobody knew what color it actually was. Not even the people who rode in it every day. This isn't just dirty, this is archaeological levels of filth. You could probably carbon date the dirt layers. There were probably new species of bacteria evolving in that grime. Number 13, the license plate mystery. The license plates on Al's car change multiple times throughout the series. In one season, it reads 2RPH72. Later, it becomes 61 CMS2. No explanation, no acknowledgement, they just change. It's like the car exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and we're seeing different versions leak through. Or maybe the DMV just gave up trying to keep track of this automotive anomaly and started assigning it random plates, hoping one would stick. Number 12, the time-traveling model year. The show can't even agree on what year the car is. In one episode, it's claimed to be a 1974. In another, it's a 1971. Sometimes it's a 72. It's like the car exists outside of linear time, aging and reverse aging depending on what the plot needs. This isn't just a continuity error, it's a complete breakdown of temporal reality. The car is simultaneously 3 different years at once, which might explain why it never dies. It's too confused about when it exists to know it should have stopped existing 20 years ago. Number 11, the unbreakable bond. Despite being the worst car in television history, Al remains fiercely loyal to it. He resists replacing it, he defends it against insults, he treats it better than he treats most people. This becomes a running gag representing his misfortune, but it's also weirdly touching. In a world where everything in Al's life disappoints him, his job, his family, his dreams, at least his car is consistently terrible. There's comfort in that reliability. You know exactly what you're getting with Al's car, which is nothing good, but at least it's predictably nothing good. Number 10, the taillight detective work. Automotive enthusiasts have spent way too much time analyzing this car. They've identified specific taillights, trim pieces, and bodywork that definitively prove it's a 1972 Plymouth Duster. Not a 71, not a 74, definitely not a Dodge. The evidence is overwhelming. The grille shape, the marker lights, the bumper configuration, it all screams Plymouth Duster. Yet the show continues the charade. It's like a murder mystery where everyone knows who did it. We have video evidence, DNA, and a confession, but the detective keeps investigating other suspects. Number 9, the mismatched parts symphony. The interior and exterior condition of the car is portrayed as a complete disaster. Rust holes you could put your fist through, seats that leak stuffing, a roof that leaks rain, doors that don't match, bumpers held on by wire. This isn't just a bad car, it's modern art. It's a rolling sculpture dedicated to automotive suffering. Every mismatched part tells a story of desperation, of last-minute repairs with whatever was available, of a man too stubborn to admit defeat. It's beautiful in its ugliness. Number 8, the million-mile marketing stunt. In one storyline, the car manufacturer tries to give Al a new car when his hits 1,000,000 miles. It's supposed to be a promotional stunt, great publicity for the company, except they didn't count on Al Bundy. He doesn't want a new car. He wants his terrible, falling apart Plymouth pretending to be a Dodge. The company is baffled. They're offering him a free, brand new vehicle, and he's turning it down for a car that barely qualifies as scrap metal. It's like winning the lottery and asking if you can keep your debt instead. Number 7, the secret performance mystery. Here's something weird. The car Al drives was originally not a high-performance model, it was a basic economy car from the early 70s, yet some fans jokingly suggest it must have a big engine, like a 340 cubic inch monster based on model kit commentary. Why? Because there's no other explanation for how it keeps running. Maybe under all that rust and grime is secretly the most powerful engine ever created. Maybe that's why it won't die. It's not a regular Duster, it's a super Duster disguised as garbage. Number 6, the time capsule effect. Although the car is just a compact intermediate from the early 1970s, the show treats it like an ancient relic that's been with the family since the dawn of time. It represents stagnation, the Bundys' inability to move forward, to improve their situation. The car isn't just transportation, it's a metaphor. It's their lives on wheels, broken, embarrassing, but somehow still functioning enough to get by. Every ding, every rust spot, every mechanical failure mirrors the family's own dysfunction. Number 5, the color continuity chaos. The color changes from blue to bronze to tan to red are never explained in the show's universe. Sometimes it contradicts earlier statements about the car's appearance. It's like the writers had a meeting and decided continuity was for quitters. The truly bizarre part is that nobody in the show seems to notice. Peggy doesn't say, "Hey Al, when did you paint the car red?" Kelly doesn't ask why their blue car is now tan. It's as if everyone in the Bundy universe has selective color blindness that only affects this one specific vehicle. Number 4, the archaeological grime theory. Fans have theorized that the brown look in early seasons wasn't paint at all. It was decades of accumulated dirt, grime, and substances best not identified. This plays into the joke that the car never gets washed ever. Think about it. If you never washed a car for 20 years, what color would it be? Not its original color, that's for sure. It would be the color of neglect, the shade of giving up, the hue of automotive depression. That's not brown paint, that's a protective layer of failure. Number 3, the comic timing machine. The show uses the car as a perfect comedic device. It breaks down at the worst possible moment. Al has to push it when it fails. It makes sounds that cars shouldn't make. It's not just a prop, it's a comedy partner. The car has better comic timing than some actors. Just when Al needs it most, it fails. Just when he's trying to impress someone, it embarrasses him. It's like the car has its own consciousness dedicated entirely to making Al's life worse. Number 2, the Great Dodge Plymouth debate. The mismatch between what Al calls the car and what it actually is has spawned countless debates on car forums. People have written essays about this. They've analyzed frame rates to identify exact model specifications. They've compared production codes. Some argue it's intentional commentary on Al's delusions. Others think it's the longest-running production error in television history. There are conspiracy theories. There are academic papers. All because a fake TV dad can't correctly identify his own car. Number 1. The immortal character. The car appears in all 11 seasons of the show, making it as much a character as the family home or the living room couch. Think about that. This car had more screen time than some recurring human characters. It outlasted plot lines, relationships, and running gags. It survived every attempt to destroy it, every accident, every mishap. In a show about a family that never changes, never grows, never escapes their situation, the car is the perfect symbol. It's not going anywhere, literally and figuratively, but somehow it keeps going. The car isn't just transportation, it's a family member. A rusty, unreliable, mysteriously color-changing family member that might be two different brands simultaneously. Some model makers have even built detailed replicas, complete with magazines in the trunk and six-packs behind the seats, proving that this disaster of a vehicle has achieved a weird kind of immortality. It's the worst car in television history, and that's exactly what makes it perfect. And there you have it, 20 facts about Al Bundy's car that prove reality is optional when you're creating television magic. Did you catch all these details when you watched the show? Or were you too distracted by Al's hand permanently stuck in his pants? Drop your favorite Married with Children car moment in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more bizarre television mysteries that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about your favorite shows. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes a Dodge is a Plymouth, and sometimes television just doesn't have to make sense. Number 20. The Challenger. Everyone remembers never actually existed. Here's something that'll mess with your head. There wasn't just one hero car in Vanishing Point. There were 5. 5 identical Alpine white Challengers provided by Chrysler specifically for the production. Each one had its own role to play in creating the illusion of one unstoppable machine. Some were camera cars, others were stunt vehicles. One was kept pristine for the close-ups. The Challenger you fell in love with was actually a tag team of automobiles, swapping in and out between scenes. It's like finding out your favorite superhero was actually quintuplets taking turns wearing the cape. The production team worked hard to maintain the illusion, but once you know this, you can't unsee the subtle differences between shots. Number 19. The engine that roared was wrong. Everyone assumes Kowalski's Challenger packed the legendary 426 Hemi under the hood. Wrong. Dead wrong. 4 of the 5 cars actually had 4 40 cubic inch V8s with 4-speed manual transmissions. The 5th one? That had a 383 cubic inch V8 with a 3-speed automatic. The Hemi myth has become so ingrained in car culture that people swear they can hear that distinctive Hemi rumble in the movie. But here's the kicker. You're not even hearing the real engines most of the time. Those supercharger whines that make your heart race? Completely fake. Added in post-production, the engines weren't supercharged at all. Hollywood magic strikes again. The 440 was still a beast of an engine, pushing out 375 horsepower, but it wasn't the holy grail Hemi that everyone imagines. Number 18. Those cars weren't born white. This one's wild. None of those Challengers came from the factory in Alpine white. The film crew had to repaint all 5 cars specifically for the movie. Why white? Not for any deep symbolic reason about purity or death or whatever film students might tell you. They chose white because it would pop against the brown desert landscapes. Pure practicality. But here's where it gets interesting. The paint job was apparently rushed because in certain scenes where the car gets damaged, you can actually spot green paint underneath the white in the dents and scratches. Watch the scene where Kowalski clips the guardrail. Pause it. Look closely. Green. The original factory color peeking through like a secret identity. Number 17. The license plate mystery. The Colorado license plate on the Challenger reads OA5599. Seems random, right? But here's the weird part. Throughout the movie, the plate appears and disappears like a ghost. Some shots show it clearly. Others, the car has no plate at all. This wasn't intentional. It was a continuity error that nobody caught until after release. The plate itself has become a piece of movie memorabilia legend. Replica plates sell for hundreds of dollars to collectors. But the real mystery. Nobody knows what happened to the original plates from the film cars. They've completely vanished. Pun intended. Number 16. The jump that almost killed everyone. That spectacular jump across the dry creek bed wasn't supposed to be that spectacular. The stunt was meant to be a controlled 30-foot leap, but something went wrong. The car hit the ramp too fast and launched nearly twice the intended distance. The landing was so hard it bent the frame of the car and nearly knocked out the stunt driver. They only fitted heavier-duty shock absorbers to one of the 5 Challengers, the dedicated jump car. Even with those upgrades, the impact was brutal. The footage was so good they kept it in the film, but they never attempted that jump again. The stunt coordinator later admitted they got lucky, nobody died. Number 15. The death scene used a Chevy. This is the ultimate betrayal. The climactic scene where the Challenger crashes into the bulldozers, that's not a Challenger at all. It's a 1967 Chevrolet Camaro shell. An engine-less, gutted Camaro, rigged with explosives, and towed by one of the actual Challengers using a cable hidden from the camera. They painted it white and filmed from angles that obscured its true identity. Dodge provided the cars for free as a marketing deal, and there was no way they were going to let the filmmakers obliterate a brand new Challenger on screen. So Chevy took the hit instead, literally. The irony is delicious. Number 14. The Speed Lies. The film claims the Challenger could do over 160 miles per hour. Total fiction. In the actual filming conditions, on those desert roads, with 1970 technology and safety limitations, the cars probably never exceeded 110 miles per hour. Most of the high-speed scenes were shot at 70 to 80 miles per hour, and then undercranked to make them look faster. The speedometer shots showing higher speeds, those were filmed with the car stationary, the needle moved manually. Even the engine sounds were overdubbed and sped up to sell the illusion of extreme velocity. Movie magic turns a fast car into a rocket ship. Number 13. They destroyed cars to keep cars running. By the midpoint of filming, the Challengers were falling apart. The desert heat, the constant high-speed runs, the jumps, and near crashes were taking their toll. The crew started cannibalizing parts from one Challenger to keep the others running. Transmissions, suspension components, body panels, even entire front ends were swapped between cars like organ transplants. The director later said they really ruined a couple of those cars. By the end of production, only 2 of the 5 Challengers were still fully functional. The others were Frankenstein monsters of mixed parts and hasty repairs. Number 12. Civilian almost died during filming. Here's a story that never made it to the DVD commentary. During one of the highway chase scenes, a civilian driver ignored all the traffic blocks and road closure signs. They drove straight into the middle of a high-speed filming sequence. The stunt driver had to swerve at the last second to avoid a head-on collision at nearly 90 miles per hour. The near miss was so close that paint actually transferred between the vehicles. The footage was unusable, but somewhere in a vault, there's film of what almost became a real tragedy instead of a fictional one. Number 11. The car. Had no special options for a car that became the ultimate symbol of American muscle, Kowalski's Challenger was surprisingly basic. No shaker hood, no rear spoiler, no racing stripes, no vinyl roof. Just a plain white hardtop with a black interior. This was intentional. The director wanted the car to look like something any regular person might own, not a flashy show car. The lack of options actually makes the movie cars rarer today. Most surviving 1970 Challengers are loaded with period options. Finding one as plain as the movie cars is nearly impossible. Number 10. All 5 cars were destroyed. Every single Challenger used in Vanishing Point is gone, destroyed. After filming Wrapped, the cars were in such bad shape that Chrysler didn't want them back. The studio couldn't sell them because of the damage and liability issues, so they were all sent to the crusher. Every last one. No hero car survived, no stunt car was saved, they're all gone. This makes Vanishing Point unique among car movies. Usually, at least one car survives to become a museum piece or collector's item. Not here, the destruction was total. Today, every Vanishing Point tribute car you see is a replica, a ghost of a ghost. Number 9. The white paint change color theory. Before Vanishing Point, white was considered a boring color for muscle cars. Detroit painted them in bright oranges, greens, purples, anything but white. After the movie, Alpine white Challengers became highly sought after. Dodge actually increased production of white Challengers in 1971 specifically because of the film's impact. The movie single-handedly changed the perception of white as a performance car color. Today, white is one of the most popular colors for sports cars. All because a film crew needed a car that would show up well against brown rocks. Number 8. Super Soul was real. The radio DJ character Super Soul, played by Cleveland Little, was based on a real person. A DJ named Super Soul operated out of Los Angeles in the late 60s, known for his anti-establishment commentary and support of counterculture causes. The real Super Soul never guided any actual car chases, obviously, but he did use police scanners to report on protests and police activities. The character in the film took this concept to its logical extreme. The idea of a DJ becoming the Greek chorus for a car chase was revolutionary for 1971. Number 7. The loop nobody notices. The movie opens with the Challenger blazing past a black Chrysler Imperial. It ends with the car vanishing in flames at the roadblock. But here's the thing most people miss. That opening scene, it's actually the ending. The whole movie is a loop, a circle, like the car is trapped in an endless chase that always ends the same way. The black Imperial appears again right before the final crash, same car, same position. The title Vanishing Point refers not just to the horizon, but to the point where the beginning and end meet. Once you see it, the entire movie takes on a different meaning. Number 6. The mysterious green paint. Remember that green paint showing through the damaged white paint? It gets weirder. None of the 5 Challengers were originally green according to Chrysler's records. They were various colors, but green wasn't one of them. So where did the green come from? One theory is that the cars were repainted before being given to the production, possibly for another promotional event. Another theory suggests the primer used was green, but primer isn't usually that vivid. The green paint remains an unsolved mystery of the production. Number 5. The torsion bar secret. The Challenger's heavy-duty torsion bar suspension wasn't just good for stunts, it had an unexpected benefit. The torsion bars could be adjusted to change the car's ride height without changing any parts. The crew would crank them up for jumps, lower them for high-speed runs, and adjust them scene by scene for different looks. In some shots, the car sits higher. In others, it's slammed low. Most viewers never notice, but the Challenger changes height throughout the movie like it's breathing. Number 4. Vietnam story was fake. Kowalski claims to be a Vietnam veteran, an ex-cop, a motorcycle racer, and a stock car driver. But here's the weird part. We never learn his first name. The script never reveals if any of his backstory is true. Barry Newman, the actor, created his own backstory for the character that was completely different from what's implied in the dialogue. He played Kowalski as someone who was lying about everything, running from something we never see. The ambiguity was intentional. The director wanted Kowalski to be a cipher, a blank slate for the audience to project onto. Number 3, the Camaro connection goes deeper. That Camaro shell used for the crash wasn't random. It was specifically chosen because its profile looks similar enough to the Challenger from certain angles. But here's the bizarre part. The Camaro was originally blue with white stripes, the same color scheme as the Challenger in the 1997 remake of Vanishing Point. Was this intentional foreshadowing? Probably not, but it's a strange coincidence that connects the two films in an unexpected way. The Camaro gave its life so the Challenger could become immortal. Number 2. Tarantino's obsession changed everything. Quentin Tarantino saw Vanishing Point when he was 8 years old. It changed his life. He's referenced the film in Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill, and Death Proof. The white Challenger became his template for every cool car in his movies. But here's what most people don't know. Tarantino actually tried to buy one of the original cars in the 80s, not knowing they'd all been destroyed. He spent years searching before learning the truth. His disappointment led him to include a whole scene about the car in Death Proof, where characters argue about whether it had a 440 or a Hemi. Number 1. The real vanishing point. Here's the ultimate weird fact. The term vanishing point in art refers to the spot where parallel lines appear to converge in the distance. It's an optical illusion. Those parallel lines never actually meet, they just look like they do from our perspective. The movie's title isn't just about the car disappearing, it's about that spot on the horizon that you can never reach, no matter how fast you drive. The Challenger spends the entire movie racing toward a point that doesn't exist. And in the end, the only way to reach a vanishing point is to vanish yourself. The car had to be destroyed because that's the only way the journey could end. Those 5 Challengers didn't just die for our entertainment, they became the vanishing point themselves. And there you have it. That's 20 weird facts about Kowalski's 1970 Challenger that prove even the most iconic movie car has secrets hidden under the paint. Did you know any of these? Which one surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And hey, if you made it this far, you're obviously a true gearhead, so hit that subscribe button and notification bell for more deep dives into cinema's greatest machines. Until next time, keep the hammer down and watch out for bulldozers. Number 20. The Eleanor name is actually a character, not just a car. Here's something that'll mess with your head. Eleanor isn't just a nickname for the car, it's literally a character in the film. Nicolas Cage's character, Memphis Reigns, treats Eleanor like she's alive. He talks to her. He has a relationship with her. And this isn't just movie magic, it became a legal nightmare. The name Eleanor became so tied to the character car concept that it transcended being just a model designation. When people started building Eleanor replicas, they weren't just copying a car design, they were recreating a copyrighted character. Think about that for a second. A car with intellectual property rights. This bizarre situation led to countless legal battles that continue to this day. The copyright holders have sued replica builders, car shops, and even YouTube channels for using the Eleanor name without permission. It's gotten so complicated that some builders now call their replicas Gone in 60 Seconds Mustangs just to avoid the legal mess. The whole thing raises a weird philosophical question. Can a car be a character? According to US copyright law, apparently, yes. Number 19. None of the movie cars were real Shelbys. This one's going to hurt some purists. Those beautiful machines you saw tearing through the streets of Long Beach, not a single genuine Shelby among them. They started life as regular 1967 Mustang fastbacks, basic models. Some even had leaky 289 engines. Cinema Vehicle Services basically performed automotive identity theft on a massive scale. They took ordinary Mustangs and dressed them up as Shelby GT 500s. But here's where it gets interesting. They didn't even try to make them authentic Shelbys underneath. They went in a completely different direction. The modifications were so extensive that these cars became something entirely new, something that never existed in Carroll Shelby's workshop. The irony, these fake Shelbys are now worth more than many real ones. One sold for $852,500 in 2020. That's more than most genuine 67 GT 500s. It's like finding out your favorite designer handbag is a knockoff, but the knockoff is somehow more valuable than the original. Number 18. Chip Foose designed the body kit that fooled everyone. The man behind Eleanor's iconic look, Chip Foose, yes, that Chip Foose, the overhauling guy. Before he was a TV star, he was crafting movie magic. Working with concept input from Steve Stanford, Foose created every custom element that makes Eleanor instantly recognizable. The aggressive front grille, the bulging hood, those flared fenders that scream power, the low-riding side skirts, even those distinctive side exit exhausts, all Foose. But here's the weird part. Many of these modifications were purely cosmetic, those badass side exhausts, often not functional. The aggressive hood scoops, sometimes just for show. The C-pillar fuel fillers that look so cool, fake on most cars. It was Hollywood smoke and mirrors at its finest. Foose essentially created a greatest hits album of muscle car design elements, threw them all together, and somehow made it work. The result was so convincing that an entire generation of car enthusiasts grew up thinking this was what a real Shelby GT 500 looked like. Number 17, they built 11 or 12 cars, and nobody can agree on the exact number. How many Eleanors were actually built for the film? Good question, even the experts can't agree. Some sources say 11, others insist it was 12. The confusion stems from how you define built. Some were complete cars, others were barely rolling shells. Cinema Vehicle Services created a small army of Eleanors, each with a specific purpose. But the record keeping was apparently as chaotic as the movie's chase scenes. What we do know is that only 3 were hero cars, the ones used for close-ups and scenes with the actors. The rest were stunt doubles, crash dummies, and background extras. Some were built to be destroyed, others were barely cars at all, just shells on wheels for distant shots. The ambiguity adds to the mystique. It's like trying to count how many Stradivarius violins exist. Everyone has a different number, and they're all somehow correct. This confusion has led to numerous cars being claimed as original Eleanors over the years, with varying degrees of authenticity. Number 16. The engines were disappointingly ordinary. Ready for a letdown? Most Eleanor cars packed 3 51 cubic inch Ford crate engines, not 4 28s, not 4 27 Cobras. Just regular 5.8 liter V8s you could order from a catalog. For a car that was supposed to be the unicorn of the film, the crown jewel that Memphis Reigns needed to steal, the engine choice was surprisingly pedestrian. These weren't even special high-performance versions, just standard crate motors. Reliable? Sure. Exciting? Not really. It's like finding out Thor's hammer is made of aluminum instead of mythical Uru metal. The movie made it seem like Eleanor had some exotic power plant that could outrun anything. In reality, a modern V6 Camry could probably keep up. But here's the genius part. It didn't matter. The camera work, the sound design, and the movie magic made these ordinary engines seem extraordinary. They added supercharger whine in post-production. They dubbed in more aggressive exhaust notes. By the time it hit theaters, Eleanor sounded like she had 1,000 horsepower under the hood. Number 15. The nitrous system was Hollywood fantasy. Remember that dramatic "Go Baby Go" button? The one that supposedly activated the nitrous oxide system for that extra burst of speed? Total Hollywood fabrication. Well, mostly. Some cars had nitrous systems installed, or at least the appearance of them. But the way it worked in the movie? Pure fantasy. Real nitrous systems don't work like video game power-ups. You don't just push a button and suddenly gain 50 miles per hour. But the film treated it like Eleanor had a rocket booster. The famous shift knob with the button became an iconic piece of movie history. Replica builders now include it as standard equipment. Everyone wants that "Go Baby Go" moment. The funny thing is, most of the speed scenes were filmed at normal speeds and then sped up in editing. When Eleanor hits the nitrous in the movie, it's often just clever camera work and post-production magic. The car wasn't actually going any faster, but man, did it look cool. That button became so legendary that people install fake ones in their cars just for the aesthetic. Number 14, the paint job created. An entire industry pepper gray with twin black racing stripes. Before the movie, this wasn't a particularly special color combination. After, it became the definitive Eleanor look. The specific shade of gray wasn't even a factory Mustang color. It was custom mixed for the film. But within months of the movie's release, paint shops across America were getting requests for Eleanor Gray. The combination was so perfect it seemed obvious in retrospect. The gray was aggressive, but not too flashy. The black stripes added just enough racing heritage. Together, they created instant recognition. You could spot an Eleanor replica from a mile away. This paint scheme literally launched thousands of tribute builds. Custom shops started offering Eleanor packages that were basically just this paint job on any 67 Mustang. Some shops made their entire business model around recreating this exact look. The weird part? The color looks different in almost every scene of the movie. Lighting, film stock, and post-production color grading mean Eleanor appears anywhere from dark charcoal to light silver, depending on the shot. Number 13. Some cars were built specifically to be destroyed. Here's something that'll make classic car lovers cringe. Several Eleanors were built as sacrificial lambs. Their entire purpose? To be wrecked, crashed, and destroyed on camera. These weren't just stunt cars. They were kamikaze cars, built to die. CVS constructed them with the bare minimum needed to look good on camera for their death scenes. Cheaper engines, basic interiors, just enough structural integrity to survive until their big moment. One was built specifically for the famous jump sequence, another for crash scenes. Some barely ran at all, they just needed to roll downhill or be pulled by cables. It's automotive snuff film territory. Imagine building a beautiful car knowing its destiny is a concrete wall at 60 miles per hour. The builders literally created art designed for destruction. The psychology of it is fascinating. These builders put just as much work into the doomed cars as the heroes, knowing they'd end up as scrap metal. It's like Tibetan monks creating sand mandalas, knowing they'll sweep them away when finished. Number 12. Wirework and CGI made the stunts possible. Think all those incredible stunts were pure driving skill? Think again. The famous jump scene where Eleanor flies through the air? Wires, lots of wires, and computer graphics. This was 2000, remember? CGI was becoming Hollywood's favorite toy. The production team used a combination of practical effects and digital enhancement. Cars were suspended by cables for certain shots. Others were completely computer-generated for moments too dangerous or impossible to film practically. The final chase sequence is a masterclass in mixing real and fake. Some shots are genuine stunt driving. Others are models. Some are entirely digital. The editors wove them together so seamlessly that most viewers never notice. But here's the really weird part. The wire work sometimes went wrong. Cars would spin unexpectedly. Cables would snap. One stunt car ended up in a completely different trajectory than planned. Some of these accidents made it into the final film because they looked more dramatic than what was scripted. The blend of practical and digital effects created stunts that looked real but were physically impossible. Number 11. The interior featured bizarre. Custom elements step inside Eleanor and you'd find a cockpit that was part Mustang, part spaceship, part joke. That famous "Go Baby Go" shift knob wasn't the only weird addition. The builders added switches and buttons that did absolutely nothing. They were just there to look cool on camera. Flip switches labeled for systems that didn't exist, gauges that weren't connected to anything, warning lights that were just LED decorations. It was like a 12-year-old's fantasy of what a race car interior should look like. Some Eleanors had completely different interiors depending on what was being filmed. Close-up cars had detailed, finished interiors. Stunt cars might have racing seats and roll cages. Background cars sometimes had no interior at all, just black cloth over the windows. The continuity department must have had nightmares trying to keep track. One scene might show leather seats, the next racing buckets, then back to leather. Most viewers never noticed because the action moved so fast. The weird modifications became part of Eleanor lore. Now, replica builders include non-functional switches just to match the movie car. People are literally installing useless buttons for authenticity. Number 10. One Eleanor crashed into a light pole during filming and injured someone. Here's a dark fact the studio doesn't advertise. During production, one of the stunt Eleanors lost control and slammed into a light pole. Someone got hurt, and they used the footage in the final film. Think about that. You're watching the movie, enjoying the chase scene, and suddenly you're witnessing a real accident, real danger, real consequences. The production team's decision to include the crash footage is ethically questionable at best, but from a filmmaking perspective, it added authenticity you can't fake. The crash looked real because it was real. The danger felt genuine because someone actually got injured. Hollywood has a long history of using accident footage when it looks good on camera, but knowing someone was hurt in that specific shot adds an uncomfortable layer to watching the film. It's like those old westerns where horses were actually injured during filming. We watch it differently now, knowing the cost. The incident also highlights how dangerous these productions were. Stunt drivers were pushing replica muscle cars to their limits on public streets. The margin for error was razor thin. Number 9. Southern California was scoured for donor cars. The Great Mustang Hunt of 1999 was real. CVS sent scouts across Southern California looking for 1967 Mustang fastbacks. They needed bodies, lots of bodies, and they weren't picky. Rust buckets. They'd take them. Non-running. Perfect. That legendary 289 with more leaks than a government whistleblower? Sold. They were buying Mustangs like doomsday preppers buy canned goods. The search became increasingly desperate as production deadlines loomed. They paid premium prices for cars that were barely worth scrap value. Some owners made more selling their rusty Mustangs to the movie production than the cars were actually worth. One seller reportedly couldn't believe anyone would pay actual money for his broken down fastback. The car hadn't run in years. The floor was rusted through, but CVS handed over cash and hauled it away. Within weeks, that rust bucket was transformed into a movie star. The irony is delicious. Cars that were headed for the crusher became part of cinema history. Some owners' abandoned project car is now worth hundreds of thousands because it was Eleanor, number 7, or whatever. Number 8. Legal battles. Made Eleanor more famous than the movie. The Eleanor copyright saga is stranger than fiction. The car became subject to more legal battles than most human celebrities. Lawsuits flying left and right, cease and desist orders, YouTube videos pulled down, its automotive litigation gone. Wild. The company that owns the Eleanor trademark has been aggressively defending it for years. They've sued replica builders. They've gone after small shops. They've even targeted individuals who built Eleanor replicas in their garage and posted about it online. One famous case involved a YouTube channel that had to surrender their Eleanor build to avoid legal action. The car they spent years building was literally taken away because of copyright claims. The whole situation created a chilling effect in the replica community. Builders started calling their creations definitely not Eleanor, or Gray Mustang with stripes. The legal battles actually made Eleanor more famous. Every lawsuit generated headlines, every cease and desist order created controversy, the Streisand effect in full force. The car became more legendary because it was forbidden fruit. The weird part? The legal protection might actually expire someday and suddenly everyone will be free to build Eleanors. Imagine the flood of replicas that would hit the market. Number 7. The jump scene used multiple filming techniques. That incredible jump where Eleanor flies through the intersection, it's a Frankenstein's monster of filmmaking techniques. They used a real car, then a model, then CGI, then wire work, all stitched together in editing. The main jump was performed by a real Eleanor, but it was assisted by a massive ramp and careful calculations. The car was also lightened significantly. They removed the engine, transmission, anything heavy. It was basically a shell with just enough weight to look right on camera. But that wasn't enough. They also filmed a scale model for certain angles. The model work is so good that most people can't spot it. The lighting, the motion blur, the camera angles all hide the deception. Then came the digital touches. CGI artists extended the jump, added sparks, enhanced the landing. They painted out safety equipment and wires. They even adjusted the car's trajectory in post-production to make it look more dramatic. The result is a jump that looks both real and impossible. It's too perfect to be genuine, but too detailed to be fake. This Frankenstein approach became the template for modern action films. Number 6. The Shelby Trust challenged Eleanor's legitimacy. Carroll Shelby's estate wasn't happy about Eleanor claiming to be a Shelby. They argued these movie cars had nothing to do with genuine Shelby vehicles. It was brand dilution at its finest. The trust's position was understandable. Eleanor looked nothing like a real 1967 GT 500. The body was different, the stance was different. Everything that made a Shelby special was missing or modified. They didn't want movie replicas diminishing the real Shelby legacy. But the challenge created a weird paradox. By fighting Eleanor's connection to Shelby, they actually made Eleanor more distinct, more special. It became its own thing entirely, separate from the Shelby lineage. The legal arguments got philosophical. What makes a Shelby a Shelby? Is it the name, the builder, the design, the heritage? Eleanor existed in a gray area between tribute and transformation. The dispute highlighted how movie cars occupy a strange space in automotive culture. They're not quite replicas, not quite customs, not quite authentic. They're something else entirely. The Shelby Trust's challenge ultimately failed to stop Eleanor's cultural impact. If anything, it made Eleanor more legendary as a rebel that didn't need Shelby's blessing. Number 5. The Restomod movement exploded. Because of Eleanor didn't just influence car culture, she basically created an entire industry. The Restomod movement, classic cars with modern modifications, exploded after the movie's release. Suddenly everyone wanted their classic car to perform like a modern one. Before Eleanor, most classic car enthusiasts were purists, original parts only, factory specifications, matching numbers. Eleanor said, forget all that. Make it better, make it faster, make it yours. The floodgates opened, shops started specializing in modernizing classics. Modern engines in vintage bodies, contemporary suspensions under classic sheet metal, air conditioning, power steering, modern brakes, all the conveniences wrapped in nostalgic packaging. Eleanor proved you could improve on history without destroying it. The movement generated controversy. Purists called it sacrilege. Modernizers called it evolution. The debate rages on, but the market has spoken. Restomod cars now sell for more than original restored versions. Eleanor's influence extends beyond Mustangs. Every classic car brand now has Restomod versions. Corvettes, Camaros, Chargers, they all got the Eleanor treatment. Modern performance wrapped in vintage style. The weird part is that Eleanor herself wasn't even a true Restomod. She was a replica pretending to be a Restomod, a copy of something that never existed, influencing real cars to become something new. Number 4. The pepper gray paint appears different in every scene. Watch Gone in 60 seconds carefully and you'll notice something strange. Eleanor's color changes constantly. Sometimes she's dark charcoal, other times she's almost silver. It's not your TV, it's movie magic gone weird. The inconsistency stems from multiple factors. Different film stock was used for various scenes. Lighting conditions varied from shot to shot. Some scenes were filmed at night, others in broad daylight. Each Eleanor was painted slightly differently. Post-production color grading altered the appearance further. Digital enhancement made some scenes pop while others were muted. The editors were more concerned with mood than color consistency. The result? Eleanor is basically a chameleon. She's whatever shade of gray the scene requires, dark and menacing for night chases, lighter and more visible for daylight shots, sometimes almost blue, sometimes nearly black. This inconsistency has driven replica builders crazy for 20 years. What color is Eleanor really? Nobody knows. Everyone's Eleanor replica is the right color because there is no right color. Paint shops have dozens of formulas all claiming to be screen-accurate pepper gray. The funny thing, the inconsistency makes Eleanor more iconic. She's not just one car with one color. She's every shade of gray, a automotive Rorschach test that looks different to everyone. Number 3. Many modern Eleanors are more authentic than the originals. Here's a mind bender. Today's Eleanor replicas are often more authentic than the actual movie cars. They're better built, more consistent, and more true to the Eleanor ideal than the rushed production cars ever were. Modern builders have 20 years of hindsight. They know what worked and what didn't. They can fix the movie car's flaws. Better engines, functional side exhausts, working fuel fillers, all the stuff that was fake on the original cars. Technology has also improved dramatically. Modern builders use CAD design, CNC machining, and advanced materials the original builders could only dream about. The body kits fit better, the paint is more durable, everything is just better. Some replica builders have become so skilled that their Eleanors are considered superior to the surviving movie cars. They've perfected what cinema vehicle services rush to create. They've made the dream real. It's like cover bands that sound better than the original artist. They've had time to study, practice, and perfect what was originally improvised. The movie cars were built for a few months of filming. Modern replicas are built to last forever. The weird part? These perfect replicas are somehow less valuable than the flawed originals. The imperfections make the movie cars special. Number 2, the $850,000 auction sale. Changed everything. In 2020, one of the original Eleanor cars sold at auction for $852,500. That number sent shockwaves through the automotive world. A fake Shelby selling for more than real ones. The world had gone mad, but the sale validated Eleanor's cultural importance. This wasn't just a movie prop, it was a piece of American pop culture history. The price reflected not the car's mechanical value, but its emotional and cultural significance. The sale also triggered a gold rush. Suddenly everyone claimed to have an original Eleanor. Cars with dubious provenance started appearing at auctions. Certificates of authenticity became as common as parking tickets. The high price also affected the replica market. If an original was worth $800,000, surely a good replica was worth $50,000. $100,000? Builders started charging premium prices for Eleanor replicas. The auction changed how people viewed movie cars in general. They weren't just props anymore. They were investments, cultural artifacts, rolling, sculptures worth more than actual art. The buyer of that $800,000 Eleanor wasn't just buying a car. They were buying a piece of Hollywood history, a cultural icon, and probably the most expensive fake Shelby ever sold. Number 1, Eleanor was never really a character, until the lawyers said so. Here's the ultimate weird fact: Eleanor wasn't conceived as a copyrighted character initially. She became one retroactively when lawyers realized they could monetize the concept. It's revisionist history at its finest. The original Gone in 60 Seconds from 1974 had an Eleanor too, but she was just a car with a nickname. No personality, no character traits, just a yellow Mustang that needed stealing. The 2000 remake gave Eleanor more personality, but even then it was subtle. The copyright claims came later. When replica builders started making money, suddenly, Eleanor was a fully fledged character with intellectual property rights. The lawyers argued that Eleanor had distinctive characteristics that made her more than just a car. The paint, the body kit, the overall appearance. Together, they created a copyrightable character, like Mickey Mouse or Superman, but with wheels. This legal maneuvering created a bizarre precedent. Can any modified car become a copyrighted character? What about the Batmobile? The DeLorean from Back to the Future? Where does the line get drawn? The court sided with the copyright holders, but the logic is still debated. How can a car be a character when it doesn't speak, doesn't have emotions, and is literally an inanimate object? The whole situation represents everything weird about modern intellectual property law. A car that wasn't real, playing a character that didn't exist, becoming legally protected as something it never claimed to be. Eleanor transcended being just a movie car. She became a legal entity, a cultural phenomenon, and somehow more real than the genuine article she was pretending to be. And there you have it, 20 weird facts about the 1967 Shelby GT 500 Eleanor that prove sometimes the fake can become more real than the truth. From legal battles to Hollywood magic, from worthless donor cars to million-dollar auctions, Eleanor's story is stranger than any movie plot. Which fact surprised you the most? And did you know Eleanor wasn't even a real Shelby before watching this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into automotive history's strangest icon, hit that like button and subscribe for more videos uncovering the weird truth behind famous cars. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Number 20. The car was already retired from service. The Bluesmobile started life as an actual California highway patrol cruiser, not a replica, not a movie prop built from scratch. This was a real cop car that had already seen years of hard service before the Hollywood came calling. By 1979, when production started, this Monaco had been retired from active duty and was sitting in a surplus lot. The production team specifically wanted authentic retired police vehicles for that genuine worn-out look. No need for artificial aging here. These cars had already been beaten up by real cops chasing real bad guys. The odometer showed over 100,000 miles before filming even began. That distinctive black and white paint scheme, original CHP colors just touched up for the cameras. The wear patterns on the seats, the dings in the body panels, the slightly misaligned hood, all authentic battle scars from years of highway patrol duty. Director John Landis insisted on this authenticity. He didn't want shiny new cars pretending to be old. He wanted vehicles that looked like they'd been through hell because, well, they had been. Number 19. They actually used 13 different cars. Here's something most people don't realize. That one Bluesmobile you see throughout the movie, it's actually 13 different cars playing the same role. 13 1974 Dodge Monacos, all painted and dressed to look identical. Why so many? Because they kept destroying them. Some were designated for specific stunts, others were camera cars. A few were hero cars for close-ups with the actors. Each one had slightly different modifications depending on its intended fate. The jump cars had reinforced frames and special suspension. The crash cars had roll cages hidden inside. The hero cars had working cigarette lighters because Dan Aykroyd actually smoked in character. The continuity department had their work cut out for them, making sure damage from one scene didn't magically disappear in the next. They kept detailed logs of which car was used when and what condition it was supposed to be in. By the end of production, most of these Monacos were completely destroyed. Only one or two survived intact. Number 18. The mount Prospect jump was real. That famous scene where the Bluesmobile launches through the air in Mount Prospect. No special effects, no wires, no miniatures. They actually drove a real Monaco off a real ramp at 70 miles per hour. The car flew 118 feet through the air. That's not a typo. 118 feet. The stunt driver was barely conscious when he landed. The impact was so severe it compressed his spine by half an inch. The car's suspension completely collapsed. The engine mounts sheared off. The transmission fell out onto the pavement. But they got the shot. And what a shot it was. The production had to get special permits from the FAA because the car achieved enough altitude to technically enter controlled airspace. They stationed ambulances at both ends of the jump just in case. The stunt team calculated everything precisely, but there was still that moment of pure terror when the car left the ramp. No second takes on this one. They had one car, one chance, one absolutely insane stunt that somehow worked perfectly. Number 17, Dan Aykroyd. Personally owned one after filming Wrapped, Dan Aykroyd couldn't bear to see all the Bluesmobiles go to the crusher, so he bought one. Not just any one, he picked the best surviving hero car and had it restored. He kept it at his house in Los Angeles for years. Occasionally he'd take it out for drives, showing up at random places in full Blues Brothers costume. Imagine being at a red light and looking over to see Elwood Blues himself in the actual Bluesmobile. Aykroyd treated that car like a member of the family. He knew every dent, every quirk, every strange noise it made. When the engine finally gave out in the late 80s, he had it completely rebuilt with upgraded parts. He even installed a better sound system so he could blast blues music properly. The car became his personal time machine, a way to revisit those crazy days of filming in Chicago. Eventually, he donated it to a museum, but only after extracting promises that it would be properly maintained and occasionally driven. Cars need to move, he said. They're not meant to just sit there. Number 16. The cop motor was actually disappointing. Everyone remembers Elwood's sales pitch about the Bluesmobile. Cop motor, cop tires, cop suspension, cop shocks. Sounds impressive, right? Here's the truth. The 1974 Monaco's police package wasn't actually that special. The engine was a 440 cubic inch V8. Sounds big, but by 1974, emissions regulations had choked it down to about 230 horsepower. That's less than a modern Honda Accord. The cop tires were just heavy-duty radials rated for high-speed pursuit. The cop suspension was stiffer springs and bigger sway bars. The cop shocks were heavy-duty units designed to handle the extra weight of police equipment. In reality, these cars were chosen for durability, not performance. They could run all day without overheating. They could take abuse without braking. But fast? Not really. The movie cars had some engine work done to make them more responsive for stunts. But that legendary cop motor Elwood bragged about, it was more marketing than muscle. The real magic was in how they filmed it, making this relatively slow car look like a rocket ship. Number 15. It could really hit 120. Despite the modest horsepower, the Bluesmobile really could hit 120 miles per hour. How? Simple physics. The Monaco was surprisingly aerodynamic for a brick-shaped 70s sedan. That long hood and fastback roofline actually worked. Plus, The police package included a higher numerical rear axle ratio for better top speed. During the highway chase scenes, stunt drivers regularly pushed these cars past 100. The speedometer shots weren't faked. Those needles really were buried. Of course, at those speeds, the Monaco became somewhat terrifying to drive. The steering got light and vague, the brakes started to fade, the whole car would start to float and wander. One stunt driver described it as riding a rocket-powered couch down the highway. But for brief moments, with enough straight road and a brave enough driver, the Bluesmobile could genuinely fly. Just don't ask how long it took to get there or how it handled when it did. Number 14, the mall chase destroyed everything. The Dixie Square mall chase remains one of the most destructive scenes ever filmed. And here's the weird part. The mall was already abandoned. It had been closed for over a year when filming began. The production basically rented a dead mall and turned it into their personal demolition derby, but they still had to buy all the stuff they destroyed. Every storefront was dressed with real merchandise, real mannequins, real display cases, real everything. The Bluesmobile plowed through about $700,000 worth of props and set dressing. That's in 1979 dollars. The stunt required precise timing. Too fast and they'd overshoot their marks. Too slow and the car would get bogged down in debris. They had one shot at most of the stores because once you've driven through a shop window, it's pretty hard to reset for take two. The cleanup afterward took weeks. Glass everywhere. Mannequin parts scattered like a bizarre crime scene. And somehow, through all that destruction, the Bluesmobile kept running. They reinforced the front end with steel plating hidden behind the bumper. Otherwise, it was just a standard Monaco smashing through walls like they were made of paper. Number 13, John Belushi. Couldn't drive stick. Here's an embarrassing secret. John Belushi, who played Jake Blues, couldn't drive a manual transmission. This became a problem because several scenes required him to be behind the wheel. The solution? Movie magic. In shots where you see Jake driving, the car was usually being towed or pushed by another vehicle. The gear shifter he's moving, not connected to anything. The clutch pedal he's pressing, just for show. Dan Aykroyd did most of the actual driving when both brothers were in the car. He was a genuine car enthusiast who knew his way around a transmission. For wider shots where you couldn't see who was driving, stunt drivers wore sunglasses and suits. The famous parking garage scene where they spin the car, that's a professional stunt driver in a fat suit, made to look like Belushi. The producers briefly considered teaching Belushi to drive stick. After one terrifying lesson where he nearly drove into Lake Michigan, they decided movie magic was safer for everyone involved. Number 12, the cigarette lighter. Really worked. One of the most quoted lines from the movie is about the cigarette lighter, and yes, it really worked. In fact, it was one of the few things that consistently worked in these beat-up cars. Dan Aykroyd smoked during filming and insisted on having functional lighters in all the hero cars. This created a weird situation where the props department had to regularly check and maintain the cigarette lighters, while ignoring more important things like, say, the brakes. The lighter became a running joke among the crew. Here's this car that's falling apart, held together with wire and hope, but by God, that cigarette lighter works perfectly. It was almost metaphorical. The little things still functioned even as the big things failed. During one take, the lighter was the only electrical component that worked. The headlights had died, the radio was dead, the horn didn't work. But push in that lighter and 30 seconds later, pop, ready to go. Aykroyd later said it was his favorite detail about the car, this absolute wreck that somehow maintained one tiny bit of dignity. Number 11, the rocket launcher. Scene was almost real. Remember when the Bluesmobile gets hit with a rocket launcher? The producers originally wanted to use a real explosive, not a real rocket, but a real explosion with a real car. The stunt team rigged a Monaco with explosive charges and prepared for the most expensive single shot in the movie. Then someone did the math. The explosion they planned would have shattered windows for 3 blocks. The permit requirements alone would have cost more than the entire car budget, so they scaled it back, way back. The final effect used a combination of pyrotechnics and miniatures. The car you see flipping was actually a detailed model about 3 feet long. The explosion was real but much smaller than planned. They composited it together in post-production, but here's the weird part. They still had the fully rigged car ready to blow. It sat on set for days with everyone nervously avoiding it. Eventually, they carefully removed all the charges and used the car for other scenes. Somewhere in the movie, you're watching what was almost a car bomb just driving around Chicago. Number 10, the Illinois Nazis scene. Used real Nazis. Okay, not real Nazis, but real neo-Nazi protesters. When word got out they were filming a scene with Illinois Nazis, actual white supremacist groups showed up to protest. They were angry about being portrayed as buffoons. The producers had hired actors to play Nazis, but when real ones showed up, John Landis had an idea. He offered them $50 each to be in the background. Most refused, but a few took the money. So in that scene where the Blues Brothers drive through the Nazi rally, some of those angry faces are genuinely angry actual neo-Nazis. The stunt, where the Nazis jump off the bridge, was obviously done with stunt performers. But the crowd reactions? Some of that outrage was real. The FBI actually showed up on set that day, concerned about potential violence. Nothing happened, but the tension was real. Aykroyd later said it was one of the most uncomfortable days of filming. Here they were, making a comedy, suddenly dealing with actual hate groups. The Bluesmobile plowing through their rally became oddly cathartic. Number 9, Chicago, actually shut down. Lower Wacker Drive. The chase scene through Lower Wacker Drive required something unprecedented. Chicago actually shut down this major thoroughfare for 3 weeks. Not 3 days, 3 weeks. This is a main artery under downtown Chicago, and they closed it for a movie. The city had never done anything like this before or since. The production had to pay overtime for hundreds of city workers. They had to reroute traffic patterns throughout downtown. They had to coordinate with every building that had loading docks on Lower Wacker. The mayor's office got thousands of complaints, but they stuck with it because they wanted to show Chicago could handle major film productions. The weird part, they filmed everything they needed in about 4 days. The rest of the time was setup, cleanup, and safety checks. But the contract said 3 weeks, so they kept it closed for 3 weeks. City officials would randomly show up to make sure they were actually filming something. The production started shooting random inserts and background plates just to look busy. Number 8. The speedometer was deliberately broken. In several scenes, you can see the Bluesmobile's speedometer showing impossible readings. Doing 30, but the needle shows 70. Stopped but indicating 50 miles per hour. This wasn't a continuity error. The speedometers were deliberately disconnected in most of the stunt cars. Why? Insurance reasons. If a stunt went wrong and someone got hurt, the insurance company would want to know how fast the car was going. If the speedometer didn't work, they couldn't prove the driver was being reckless. It was a legal loophole that the production exploited. The working speedometers were only in the hero cars used for close-ups. Even then, they were often disabled for specific scenes. The props department had a collection of speedometer cables they could quickly connect or disconnect as needed. During the Mount Prospect jump, they specifically disconnected the speedometer so there'd be no official record of the launch speed. The stunt driver knew he was doing about 70, but officially, no data available. Number 7. The car could actually fit through that gap. The scene where the Bluesmobile squeezes between 2 trucks, they measured it. The Monaco was 79.7 inches wide. The gap between the trucks was 81 inches. That's 1.3 inches of clearance on each side, about the width of 2 fingers. The stunt driver had to hit that gap at exactly the right angle at exactly the right speed. Too fast and he'd bounce off. Too slow and he'd get wedged. They did 17 takes before getting it right. 17 times threading a 2-ton needle at 40 miles per hour. The successful take was actually an accident. The driver was supposed to slow down more, but his brake pedal stuck. He went through faster than planned, which made it look more dramatic. The cameras almost missed it because nobody expected him to maintain that speed. Both side mirrors were torn off in the process, which wasn't planned but looked perfect on film. For the rest of the movie, the Bluesmobile has no side mirrors, maintaining continuity from this one slightly botched but perfect stunt. Number 6. The engine sound was from a different car. Here's something that'll blow your mind. The engine sound you hear in the movie, it's not from a Monaco. It's from a 440 Plymouth Roadrunner recorded years earlier for another movie. The sound designers tried recording the actual Bluesmobile engines, but they sounded terrible. These were worn out, emissions-choked motors that wheezed more than they roared. So they went to their library of engine sounds and found this beautiful, angry, muscular recording from a heavily modified Plymouth. Every time you hear the Bluesmobile accelerate, you're actually hearing a completely different car. They had to carefully sync the sound to match the gear changes and RPMs shown on screen. Sometimes they'd layer multiple engine recordings to get the right effect. The distinctive starter sound when Elwood fires up the Bluesmobile, that's real. It's one of the few authentic Monaco sounds in the movie. That grinding, reluctant, please God start noise was exactly how these cars sounded after years of abuse. Number 5. It really did have a cop suspension. Unlike the disappointing cop motor, the police suspension package was legitimately special. The Monaco police package included heavy-duty torsion bars up front and extra leaf springs in the rear. The shocks were 50% stiffer than civilian models. The sway bars were nearly twice as thick. This setup was designed to handle the weight of police equipment and the stress of high-speed pursuit. It made the ride harsh, but the handling predictable. The weird part, this suspension was almost too good for the movie. The car didn't lean dramatically in corners. It didn't bounce entertainingly over jumps, it just stayed flat and composed. So, the stunt team actually softened some of the suspensions to get more body roll and drama. They wanted the car to look like it was barely under control. The police suspension was fighting them every step of the way, trying to keep things stable when they wanted chaos. In the end, they found a compromise. Softer springs, but keeping the heavy sway bars. This gave them the body motion they wanted while maintaining enough control for safety. Number 4, the license plate was a hidden joke. The Bluesmobile's license plate reads BDR 529. Seems random, right? It's not. BDR stands for Black Diamond Riders, which was the name of Dan Aykroyd's motorcycle gang when he was a teenager in Canada. 529 was his membership number. Nobody in the production knew this except Aykroyd. He specifically requested that plate number and wouldn't explain why. It wasn't until years later in an interview that he revealed the connection. The props department made dozens of these plates because they kept getting destroyed or stolen. Crew members would grab them as souvenirs. By the end of production, they'd made over 40 BDR 529 plates. The original hero plate from the main car was supposedly stolen on the last day of filming. Aykroyd claims he doesn't know who took it, but there's a suspicious BDR 529 size gap in his memorabilia collection. Number 3, the roof speakers were functional. Those speakers mounted on the Bluesmobile's roof, they actually worked. They were wired into a real amplifier powered by a separate battery in the trunk. During filming, they'd actually play music through them for background artists to react to. The sound quality was terrible, of course. These were cheap PA speakers designed for voice, not music, but they were loud, really loud. The neighbors around filming locations would complain about blues music blasting at 6 in the morning. The speakers created an unexpected problem during driving scenes. At anything over 30 miles per hour, the wind resistance would try to tear them off the roof. They had to reinforce the mounting brackets multiple times. Eventually, they built dummy speakers from foam that looked identical but weighed almost nothing. The real speakers were only used for stationary shots. But in that scene where they're driving through Chicago announcing their show, those are the real speakers really playing music while really annoying everyone within half a mile. Number 2, John Landis crashed. 1. Himself director. John Landis insisted on doing one stunt himself. Not a big stunt, just backing the Bluesmobile into a pole during the mall chase. How hard could it be? Pretty hard, as it turned out. Landis hit the accelerator instead of the brake and drove straight through a jewelry store display. $7,000 worth of damage in 3 seconds. The crew was terrified, not because of the damage, but because their director had nearly killed himself doing a simple backing up maneuver. The insurance company was furious. Landis was banned from driving any vehicle for the rest of the production. The footage of his crash actually made it into the movie. It's one of those random destruction shots during the mall sequence. Landis later admitted he had no idea how difficult stunt driving was until he tried it himself. He gained new respect for the stunt team and gave them bigger bonuses. He also kept a piece of the jewelry case he destroyed as a reminder of his brief, unsuccessful career as a stunt driver. Number 1. One Bluesmobile still exists and it still runs. Of the 13 Bluesmobiles used in production, only one remains in original condition. It's owned by a private collector who bought it directly from the studio in 1980. This isn't a restoration or a replica. This is an actual screen-use car with all its battle scars intact. The cigarette burns in the seats from Dan Aykroyd smoking, the dent in the roof from when a stunt went slightly wrong, the missing trim pieces that were never replaced. And here's the amazing part, it still runs. The current owner starts it once a month and drives it around his property. The original 440 engine is still there, still wheezing, still reluctant to start. The transmission still clunks into gear, the suspension still creaks over bumps. It's been invited to countless car shows, but the owner rarely takes it out. He's afraid someone will crash into it or it'll break down and need non-original parts. So, this piece of film history sits in a climate-controlled garage, occasionally venturing out to remind the world that yes, the Bluesmobile was real. The owner says he's been offered over $1 million for it. He's not selling. Some things, he says, are worth more than money. This car saved the orphanage, after all. And there you have it. 20 facts about the Bluesmobile that prove truth is definitely stranger than fiction. From Dan Aykroyd's secret license plate to John Landis nearly destroying himself in a jewelry store, this beaten-up Monaco has more stories than miles on its odometer. Which of these facts surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this dive into Blues Brothers history, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We've got plenty more weird facts about your favorite movie cars coming up. Until next time, remember, they're on a mission from God. Number 20. The Wraith's Turbo Interceptor is really Dodge's M4S prototype, originally built to be a kart pace car. Think about that for a second. This wasn't designed for Hollywood, it wasn't created to be a movie star. Dodge built this thing to lead actual race cars around tracks at insane speeds. The company needed something that could keep ahead of open-wheel racers hitting over 200 miles per hour on straightaways. So they didn't just slap together some concept car, they engineered a legitimate speed machine that could handle the responsibility of pacing Indy-style races. The fact that it ended up in a supernatural revenge film instead of leading the Indianapolis 500 is one of those bizarre twists of automotive fate. Dodge had invested serious money and engineering into this project. They brought in racing consultants, they tested it at proving grounds, they refined the aerodynamics in wind tunnels, all for a pace car that would maybe see action a dozen times a year. But then Hollywood came calling, and suddenly this track weapon became the most mysterious movie car of the 80s. The irony is that it was probably overqualified for the role. Most movie cars are dressed up regular vehicles with fancy body kits. The M4S was the opposite, a genuine performance prototype that happened to look like it came from another dimension. Number 19, M4S stands for Mid-Engine 4-Cylinder Sport. Now that might not sound impressive today when every supercar has its engine behind the driver, but in 1986 this was radical thinking from Detroit. American manufacturers were still mostly stuck on front-engine rear-drive layouts. The idea of putting a 4-cylinder in the middle of a sports car was practically heresy. Remember, this was the era of big V8s and muscle car nostalgia. Chrysler was essentially saying, forget everything you know about American performance, we're going full exotic. The mid-engine layout wasn't just for show either. It gave the M4S perfect 50-50 weight distribution. That meant it could corner like it was on rails. The handling was supposedly so neutral that test drivers compared it to purpose-built race cars. And calling it sport was almost underselling it. This thing was more like Sport Extreme, or Sport Psychotic. The configuration allowed for that impossibly low, wedge-shaped profile that made it look like it was doing 200 miles per hour standing still. Engineers positioned every component for optimal weight balance and aerodynamics. Nothing was where you'd expect it to be in a traditional American car. Number 18, it used a twin-turbo 2.2-liter 4-cylinder with a Cosworth head pushing around 440 horsepower. Stop and process that number. 440 horsepower from a 2.2-liter 4-cylinder. In 1986, that's absolutely mental. Ferrari's flagship Testarossa was making 390 horsepower from a 5-liter 12-cylinder. The Corvette was getting 230 from a 5.7-liter V8. And here's Dodge. Extracting supercar power from an engine smaller than what you'd find in a modern Honda Accord. The Cosworth connection is key here. These weren't the guys who built your dad's Plymouth Reliant engine. Cosworth was Formula One royalty. They knew how to make small engines scream. The twin-turbo setup was cutting edge for the time. Most manufacturers were still figuring out single turbos. Dodge went straight to twin-turbo madness. Each turbo was specifically sized to minimize lag and maximize response. The boost pressure was supposedly so high that standard gaskets would fail. They had to use special materials just to keep the thing from blowing apart under pressure. Mechanics who worked on it said the engine bay looked more like a spacecraft than a car. Pipes and hoses everywhere, intercoolers, wastegates, all crammed into a space designed for something half as complex. Number 17. Verified tests claim 0 to 60 miles per hour in 4.1 seconds and a top speed just under a 195 miles per hour. Let's put that in perspective. A 1986 Ferrari Testarossa did 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds. The Porsche 911. Turbo took 5 seconds flat. The Lamborghini Countach needed 4.8 seconds. The M4S was destroying supercars that cost 10 times as much. And it was doing it with half the cylinders. That sub 4 second 0 to 60 time wouldn't be matched by production cars for nearly a decade. The top speed was equally ridiculous. 195 miles per hour from a 4-cylinder in the 80s was basically science fiction. Most sports cars struggled to break 150. The aerodynamics had to be perfect to achieve those speeds. Any tiny flaw would create drag that would limit top end. But Chrysler's engineers nailed it. Test drivers reported that the M4S felt planted and stable, even approaching 200 miles per hour. No wandering, no lifting, just pure straight-line stability. The acceleration was apparently so violent that passengers would get disoriented. The turbos would spool up, and suddenly you were pressed into your seat like a rocket launch. Number 16. Its aerodynamic drag coefficient was an insane 0.236, better than many supercars decades later. For context, a modern Toyota Prius has a drag coefficient of 0.24. The M4S was more aerodynamic than a car specifically designed for fuel efficiency 30 years in the future. That's how far ahead of its time this thing was. Most 80s sports cars had the aerodynamics of a brick. The Countach looked fast but had a drag coefficient of 0.42. The Testarossa was 0.36. Even the relatively sleek Porsche 911 was around 0.32. The M4S was playing in a different league entirely. Every surface was sculpted in wind tunnels. The underbody was completely flat, something you'd only see on race cars at the time. The rear diffuser was functional, not decorative. Even the side mirrors were shaped for minimal drag. Chrysler engineers claimed they spent over 1,000 hours in wind tunnel testing. They tried hundreds of different configurations. Tiny changes to the nose angle or rear spoiler height were tested exhaustively. The result was a shape that looked like it came from 2010, not 1986. Modern supercars still struggle to match that drag coefficient without active aerodynamics. The M4S did it with a fixed design. Number 15, its paint wasn't black in real life. It was a layered root beer pearl that looks black in the movie. This is one of those details that drives fans crazy when they find out. Everyone remembers the Turbo Interceptor as this menacing black phantom. But in person, under the right light, it was actually a deep brown with gold pearl flakes. The paint job was as high-tech as everything else on the car. Multiple layers of different pearls and metallics created a color-shifting effect. In bright sunlight, you'd see browns and golds. In shade, it looked nearly black. Under certain angles, purple undertones would appear. The movie's cinematographer apparently hated it. They wanted pure black for the sinister look, but repainting the car would have delayed production and cost too much. So they lit it to look as dark as possible. They shot night scenes whenever they could. Day scenes used specific angles to minimize the brown tones. The irony is that the complex paint job probably cost more than just painting it black would have, but it was already done when the movie producers bought the cars. Fans who've seen the surviving M4S in person say the root beer pearl is actually more impressive than plain black. It has depth and complexity that photographs can't capture. Number 14. 6 cars were made for filming, 2 stunt-capable versions, and 4 dummy shells for crashes. This is standard Hollywood practice, but the M4S versions were anything but standard. The 2 runners were legitimate high-performance machines. They had real engines, real suspension, real everything. These weren't movie props, they were functional prototypes that could actually hit those claimed performance numbers. The 4 shells were different stories. These were fiberglass bodies mounted on custom tube frames. No engines, no complex mechanicals, just enough to look good while being destroyed. Each shell was built for specific destruction scenes, one for the explosion, one for the rollover, one for wall impacts, one backup. The interesting part is how they switched between them. The real cars would do the driving shots, then they'd cut, swap in a shell, and destroy it. Movie magic made it look like one continuous sequence. The stunt drivers apparently fought over who got to drive the real ones. These were professional wheelmen who'd driven everything, and they were blown away by the M4S's performance. Even with camera equipment mounted everywhere, it was still stupid fast. One stunt driver later said it was the quickest car he'd ever driven on a film set. Number 13. Most driving scenes used fiberglass replicas, while the real M4S was reserved for close-ups. This created some interesting challenges for the film crew. The replicas looked perfect standing still, but behaved completely differently in motion. They were lighter, less stable, and had different weight distribution. Stunt drivers had to adjust their techniques for each car. The real M4S could take corners at speeds that would flip the replicas, so chase scenes required careful planning. Which car for which shot? How fast could they actually go? The replicas used small block Chevy V8s for motivation. Reliable, torquey, but nothing like the twin-turbo 4. The exhaust note was completely wrong. The acceleration was different. The handling characteristics were night and day. so the sound department had to dub in the real M4S engine noise over replica footage. They recorded hours of the actual car at different RPMs and speeds. Then they'd sync it to the replica shots in post-production. The close-up car was babied throughout production. It had its own trailer, its own mechanic, its own security. Dodge wanted it back in one piece. This was still technically their property, just on loan to Hollywood. The insurance value was apparently astronomical for 1986. Number 12. It could supposedly run the quarter mile in the high 12-second range, ridiculous for a 1980s four-cylinder. A 12-second quarter mile in 1986 put you in serious muscle car territory. We're talking modified big blocks, race-prepped Corvettes, stripped-down street racers. And here's this four-cylinder prototype doing it from the factory. Well, if Dodge had a factory building one-off concept cars, the trap speed was allegedly around 115 miles per hour. That's the velocity at the end of the quarter mile. Most cars running 12s were trapping around 110. The M4S had serious top-end pull. The twin turbos apparently came on like a sledgehammer around 3,000 RPM. Below that, it was relatively docile. But once the boost hit, it was like someone strapped a rocket to your back. The power band was supposedly very peaky. You had to keep it in the sweet spot between 4,000 and 7,000 RPM, drop below, and you're waiting for turbos. Go above, and you're past peak power. Quarter-mile runs required perfect shifting and boost management. Miss a shift, and your time jumped into the 13s. But when everything worked, it was untouchable for a four-cylinder. Modern sport compact cars with similar displacement need serious modifications to run those times. Number 11. The futuristic wedge shape came from wind tunnel development for high-speed stability. This wasn't designers sketching cool shapes and hoping they worked. Every angle, every curve, every vent had a purpose. The wedge profile minimized frontal area while maintaining interior space. The sharp nose cut through air like a knife. The gradually rising roofline prevented lift at speed. Even the wheel wells were shaped for optimal airflow. Chrysler engineers used smoke streams to visualize air movement. They found vortices forming in unexpected places. A slight depression behind the front wheels created drag, so they added subtle strakes to direct airflow. The rear window angle was critical. Too steep and you get turbulence. Too shallow and rear visibility suffers. They tested dozens of angles before finding the sweet spot. The side profile was equally important. Air needed to flow smoothly from nose to tail without separation. Any disruption would increase drag and reduce stability. They even tested different door handle designs for aerodynamic impact. The final shape was so effective that it created its own problems. The downforce at high speed was minimal. Great for top speed, not so great for cornering stability. So they added a small rear spoiler that deployed at speeds above 100 miles per hour. Number 10. The racing DNA was real. Built with motorsport help and a lightweight race-style structure, this wasn't marketing fluff. Chrysler brought in legitimate racing engineers for the M4S project, people who'd worked on Can-Am cars, Trans Am racers, kart teams. They didn't want a street car that looked racy. They wanted a race car that happened to be street legal. Well, sort of street legal. The suspension used racing-derived components, adjustable coilovers, spherical bearings, anti-roll bars thick as your arm. The steering was manual with a quick ratio, no power assist to dilute feedback. The pedal box was adjustable like a race car. Different drivers could fine-tune positions for optimal control. The racing influence showed in weird details. Safety fuel cell instead of a normal gas tank. Quick-release pins for body panels. Central locking. Wheel nuts for faster tire changes. None of this made sense for a pace car. But it made perfect sense if Chrysler was considering a racing program. Some insiders claim there were plans for IMSA GTP competition. The M4S would have been developed into a full endurance racer. But the program died when Chrysler hit financial troubles. What survived was this incredible what-if machine. A prototype that showed Detroit could build world-class supercars if they wanted. They just usually didn't want to. Number 9. It weighed about 2,550 pounds thanks to a fiberglass body and minimalist chassis. For comparison, a 1986 Corvette weighed 3,200 pounds. A Porsche 911 Turbo was 2,900 pounds. The M4S was playing in Lotus territory for weight. Every pound was scrutinized during development. Fiberglass body panels instead of steel saved hundreds of pounds. Aluminum suspension components instead of iron. Magnesium wheels instead of aluminum. Even the bolts were titanium where possible. The chassis was a steel space frame with just enough structure for rigidity. no excess material anywhere. It looked more like scaffolding than a car frame. Racing-style construction with tubes going exactly where needed for strength. The interior was stripped to essentials. No back seats, minimal sound deadening, no luxury features. The dashboard was basic fiberglass with simple gauges. Door panels were single molded pieces. The seats came from the Dodge Daytona but were modified for lower weight. The lightweight transformed the driving experience. 440 horsepower and 2,550 pounds is a brutal power-to-weight ratio, better than contemporary supercars costing 10 times as much. Acceleration wasn't just quick, it was violent. The turbos would light and the car would literally leap forward. Number 8. A highly modified 5-speed transaxle and Bosch injection kept the power usable at high speed. The transmission was a work of art, based on a Getrag racing unit but extensively modified by Chrysler. Straight-cut gears for strength, dog engagement for faster shifts, shortened throws for quick gear changes. It could handle the tremendous torque without grenading. Most 4-cylinder transmissions of the era would have exploded with 440 horsepower running through them. This thing was built for endurance racing levels of abuse. The gear ratios were specifically chosen for the engine's power band. Keep it between 4,000 and 7,000 RPM through all gears. Fifth gear was incredibly tall for top speed runs. At 190 miles per hour, the engine was still below redline. The Bosch injection system was cutting edge for 1986. Full electronic control with multiple sensors. It could adjust fuel and timing on the fly for optimal performance. Cold starts, hot weather, altitude changes. It compensated for everything. The system even had primitive boost control. It would reduce fuel and retard timing if boost exceeded safe levels. This prevented engine destruction from overboost conditions. For 1986, this was space-age technology. Most cars still used carburetors or basic mechanical injection. Number 7. For years, the original M4S lived in the Chrysler Museum, adding to its mythical status. After filming Wrapped, Chrysler took their baby back home. It sat in the Walter P. Chrysler Museum like some kind of automotive unicorn. Visitors could see it, but not touch it. Definitely not drive it. It became this legendary machine that existed but didn't. You could prove it was real, but nobody outside Chrysler's inner circle had ever experienced it. The museum placement was perfect for building mystique, just visible enough to maintain interest, just hidden enough to fuel speculation. What was it really capable of? How did it actually drive? The stories grew with each passing year. People who claimed to have inside information would share wild tales. It could do 0 to 100 in 8 seconds. The turbos made 50 pounds of boost. It had a secret nitrous system. None of it was true, but the legend grew anyway. Occasionally, Chrysler would bring it out for special events. Auto shows, corporate celebrations, milestone anniversaries. Each appearance would restart the rumor mill. Why didn't they produce it? What killed the project? Was there more to the story? The museum residency turned the M4S into the ultimate forbidden fruit. A supercar you could see but never have. More exclusive than any limited production Ferrari or Lamborghini. Number 6. The stunt versions used buggy-style frames underneath to survive aggressive chase scenes. And this is where things get really clever. The stunt cars looked identical to the real M4S from the outside, but underneath, they were completely different animals. Purpose-built for punishment. The frames came from off-road racing buggies, massive steel tubes welded into pyramids and triangles. These things could hit jumps, slam into walls, roll over, and keep going. The suspension was long travel off-road stuff, huge shock absorbers, massive springs, bulletproof components. It needed to absorb impacts that would destroy a normal car. The engines were standard small block Chevys, reliable, torquey, easy to fix between takes. Nothing exotic, nothing temperamental, just American V8 grunt. The bodies were lightweight fiberglass shells. Easy to repair, easy to replace. If a panel got damaged, they'd just bolt on a new one. No complex metalwork required. These Frankenstein creations could take more abuse than 10 normal cars. Stunt drivers would launch them, slide them, crash them, and they'd keep running. Between takes, the crew would hammer out dents, replace fluids, and send them back out. The contrast with the real M4S was extreme. One was a precision instrument. The others were hammers designed to be swung hard. Number 5. A tragic on-set accident during production contributed to the movie's darker legacy. This isn't something the studio likes to talk about. During filming of a chase sequence, camera operator Bruce Ingram was killed. The camera car went off the road and struck him. He was 31 years old. the accident cast a shadow over the entire production. What was supposed to be a fun supernatural car movie suddenly had real tragedy attached. The crew was devastated. Many considered shutting down production entirely. They ultimately continued, but the mood was never the same. Some crew members reported an eerie feeling around the cars afterward, like they were actually cursed. The Wraith's supernatural revenge theme felt too close to reality. The film is dedicated to Ingram's memory, but most viewers miss it. It flashes by in the credits, a small acknowledgement of a terrible loss during what should have been routine filming. The accident changed how car stunts were filmed industry-wide, new safety protocols were implemented, camera positions were reconsidered. The dangerous reality of high-speed filming became impossible to ignore. In a dark irony, a movie about death in cars had experienced exactly that. The M4S became associated with both fictional and real tragedy. Number 4. In the film, the Interceptor rebuilds itself, which was achieved by swapping bodies between shots. This effect was groundbreaking for 1986. No CGI, no computer graphics, just practical effects and clever editing. But here's the brilliant part. They used the multiple cars to create the illusion. Damaged shell in one shot, perfect car in the next. The transformation happened in the cut. They'd position the cars in identical spots. Same angle, same lighting, same background. Shoot the damaged car, then quickly swap in the pristine one. Film that and edit them together. The result looked like magical regeneration. The crew developed special rigs to position cars exactly, measurements down to the inch, tire positions marked with tape. Even the steering wheel angle had to match. The planning was insane. Every regeneration was storyboarded extensively. Which car for which shot? How long for the swap? Where to hide the transition? The effect was so convincing that people still ask how they did it. Modern viewers assume it's early CGI. Nope, just brilliant practical filmmaking. The irony is that this low-tech approach looks better than many modern digital effects. It has weight and presence that CGI often lacks. Number 3, nothing like the M4S ever reached production, making it a true one-off Mopar unicorn. This is what kills enthusiasts. Chrysler proved they could build a world-class supercar, then they just didn't. The closest we got was the Dodge Spirit RT. Same basic engine but front-wheel drive and 4 doors. Not exactly a supercar. Why didn't Chrysler produce the M4S? Money, mostly. The development costs were astronomical. Producing it would have required an entirely new manufacturing process. The price would have been Ferrari territory, but in 1986, would anyone pay Ferrari money for a Dodge? The company was struggling financially. They needed profitable minivans and K-cars, not expensive halo projects. Lee Iacocca reportedly loved the M4S but couldn't justify production. The timing was also wrong. The supercar market was tiny in the mid-80s. Exotic car sales were measured in hundreds, not thousands. Chrysler needed volume to survive. But what a machine it would have been. Imagine M4Ss racing at Le Mans, special editions with even more power, evolution models pushing the envelope further. Instead, we got one prototype and a bunch of what-ifs. A single example of Chrysler's capability when engineers were unleashed. A reminder that Detroit could compete globally if corporate politics allowed it. Number 2, modern YouTube features have revived interest, sparking new fan-built replica projects. The M4S lay dormant in public consciousness for decades, then YouTube car culture exploded, and suddenly, everyone's talking about the Wraith again. Reaction videos, car reviews, movie breakdowns. The algorithm loves the M4S. Kids who weren't even born in 1986 are now obsessed with this ghost car. The comments sections are filled with "why didn't they make this?" and "someone needs to build one." And people are actually doing it. There are at least a dozen replica projects documented online. Fans reverse engineering the body shape from movie stills. Some use donor cars like Pontiac Firos or Toyota MR2s. Mid-engine, affordable, perfect starting points. Others go full custom with tube frames and fiberglass bodies. The quality varies wildly. Some look like bad kit cars. Others are virtually indistinguishable from the original. A few builders have even tried to recreate the performance, turbo 4 cylinders making serious power. Modern technology hitting those original performance targets. One builder claimed his replica makes 500 horsepower and weighs less than the original. The online community shares designs, techniques, and sources for parts. It's collaborative creativity powered by obsession. People who'll never meet working together to resurrect a car that barely existed. Chrysler has noticed the attention. There are rumors of a modern M4S concept, probably won't happen, but the internet can dream. Number 1. Compared to 1980s sports cars, its speed and aero were on another planet, making it a cult legend. This is the ultimate weird fact. The M4S wasn't just good for its time, it was impossibly advanced. Like someone sent back blueprints from the future. Take any metric, acceleration, top speed, aerodynamics, power to weight ratio. The M4S dominated everything from its era. It made Ferraris look slow. It made Porsches look heavy. It made Lamborghinis look crude. The technology gap was absurd. While other manufacturers were perfecting carburetors, Chrysler had electronic fuel injection with boost control. While others used steel bodies, Chrysler used advanced composites. While others guessed at aerodynamics, Chrysler lived in wind tunnels. It was essentially a late 90s supercar that somehow existed in 1986. The performance wouldn't be matched by production cars for over a decade. The aerodynamics are still impressive today, but here's the real tragedy. It peaked too early. The M4S showed what was possible, then disappeared. No evolution, no refinement, no production version. Just a brief flash of brilliance that vanished into museum storage. Modern enthusiasts study it like some ancient artifact. How did Chrysler engineers achieve this? What secrets died with the project? Could it have changed automotive history if produced? The M4S remains the ultimate expression of unrealized potential. A reminder that the best car might be the one that got away. And there you have it. 20 absolutely insane facts about the Wraith's Dodge M4S Turbo Interceptor. A car so advanced it basically broke the space-time continuum of 1980s automotive engineering. Which fact blew your mind the most? The 440 horsepower from a 4-cylinder? That sub 4 second 0 to 60? Or maybe just the tragedy that Chrysler never gave us the chance to buy one? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, if you made it this far, you're clearly as obsessed with obscure automotive legends as we are, so hit that subscribe button and notification bell. We've got plenty more forgotten supercars and Hollywood hero machines coming your way. Until next time, keep chasing those automotive unicorns. Number 20. The real car. Behind the digital dream. The AutoCar that viewers saw glowing on their TV screens wasn't actually computer generated, not even close. The effects team used a real Lamborghini Countach LP 400 as their practical model. This wasn't some CGI miracle, this was 1983. They had to get creative. The production team took an actual black Countach and covered it in strips of 3M retro-reflective tape, the same stuff you see on road signs. Then they shot it under specific lighting conditions and boosted the effect in post-production. The result looked like something straight out of a computer, but it was all practical effects wizardry. The choice of the Countach wasn't random either. Its wedge shape already looked like it came from the future. Those sharp angles and that low profile made it the perfect canvas for creating a vehicle that seemed to exist between the digital and physical worlds. What's even weirder is that this same basic technique would later influence how other shows created their glowing vehicle effects. But Automan did it first, turning a supercar into what looked like living computer code. Number 19. The Superman connection nobody talks about. Here's something that'll blow your mind. The glowing effect that made the AutoCar look so otherworldly came from the same technology used in the Superman movies. Seriously. The 3M retro reflective tape they used on the Countach was the exact same material used to create the glowing Kryptonian suits in Superman. The production team discovered that when you hit this tape with bright lights at the right angle, it creates an almost supernatural glow effect on camera. They'd learned this trick from the Superman production and decided to apply it to an entire car. The post-production team would then enhance this glow, cranking up the blue saturation until it looked like the car was made of pure energy. This connection between Superman and Automan goes deeper than just the tape. Both productions were trying to create something that looked genuinely otherworldly using 1980s technology. While Superman used it for alien technology, Automan used it to represent digital life crossing into our world. It's a perfect example of Hollywood recycling techniques across completely different genres. One day you're making Krypton glow, the next day you're making a Lamborghini look like it drove out of a computer monitor. Number 18. The car could do impossible. 90-degree turns. Forget everything you know about physics. The AutoCar could execute perfect 90-degree turns at any speed without slowing down. Not gentle curves, perfect right angles, like someone was controlling it with a D-pad. This wasn't just a special effect choice, it was written into the show's mythology. The car operated on computer physics, not real-world physics. When the AutoCar needed to turn a corner, it would literally snap 90 degrees instantly and continue at the same speed in the new direction. The show even addressed what this meant for human passengers. Walter, the human sidekick, would get thrown around inside the car like a rag doll during these turns. They played it for comedy, but think about it. The G-forces from an instant 90-degree turn at 60 miles per hour would probably kill you. The AutoCar didn't care about things like momentum or inertia. It moved like a sprite in an early video game, which was exactly the point. This became one of the show's signature visual gags, with Walter desperately bracing himself every time they approached a corner. Number 17. It could strafe sideways, like a video game character. The 90-degree turns were just the beginning of the AutoCar's video game physics. This thing could strafe. Yes, strafe. Like you're playing Doom and hitting the sideways movement keys. Instead of overtaking other cars by pulling out, accelerating, and pulling back in like a normal vehicle, the AutoCar would just slide sideways into the other lane while maintaining its forward momentum. No steering wheel turn, no angle change. Just pure lateral movement that would make Newton spin in his grave. The visual effect was absolutely surreal. Imagine you're driving down the highway and the car next to you just slides sideways into your lane while still facing perfectly forward. That's what the AutoCar did regularly. The show's creators said this was meant to emphasize that Automan and his creations existed in a space between digital and physical reality. They followed the rules of computer games from 1983, where sprites could move in any direction without rotating. It was actually a brilliant bit of world building that used the technical limitations of early video games as a storytelling device. Number 16. It moved on. Invisible rails like a slot car. Watch any AutoCar chase scene closely and you'll notice something strange. The car doesn't drive like a car, it moves like it's locked onto invisible rails, like a slot car following a track you can't see. This wasn't accidental. The production team deliberately made the AutoCar move this way to sell the computer physics concept. When it took corners, it didn't lean or drift. It just pivoted perfectly around the turn like it was magnetized to a predetermined path. Even when going straight, the AutoCar had this unnaturally smooth gliding motion. No wobble, no correction, no driver input visible. It moved like it was following a program rather than being driven. This effect was achieved through a combination of camera work and very careful driving by stunt professionals who trained specifically to make their movements look inhuman. They had to fight every instinct they had as drivers. The result was genuinely unsettling. The AutoCar moved through traffic like it existed in a different dimension with different rules, which, according to the show's lore, it basically did. Number 15. They used the wrong year Countach for 1983. Here's a detail that drives car enthusiasts crazy. Automan aired in 1983, supposedly showing cutting-edge technology. But the Countach they used as the AutoCar was the LP400 variant from 1974. That's a 9-year-old design by the time the show aired. By 1983, Lamborghini had already released the LP5000S with its distinctive wide body and massive rear wing. But the production used the older, cleaner LP400 design. Why? Probably because the LP400 simpler lines worked better with the reflective tape effect. The later models had more complex bodywork that would have interfered with the clean, glowing outline they were trying to achieve. Still, it's funny that a show about futuristic computer technology used a car design that was almost a decade old. The LP400 did have one advantage though. Its pure wedge shape, designed by Marcello Gandini at Bertone, looked more like something from a computer than the later, more aggressive versions. Sometimes older is better when you're trying to create something that looks like it came from another dimension. Number 14. Cursor drew the car as wireframe before it became solid. The AutoCar didn't just appear out of nowhere. It had one of the coolest materialization sequences in 80s television. Cursor, Automan's floating digital companion, would literally draw the car into existence. First came the wireframe. Cursor would zip around in the air, leaving glowing blue lines behind like a 3D printer made of light. You'd see the basic outline of the Countach taking shape, just geometric lines forming the iconic wedge silhouette. Then came the best part. Once the wireframe was complete, it would suddenly solidify into the full AutoCar, complete with that pulsing neon glow. The transformation took about 3 seconds of screen time, but it was pure 80s eye candy. This sequence was incredibly expensive to produce for 1983 each. Materialization required multiple composite shots, careful timing, and frame-by-frame animation work. But it sold the concept perfectly. The AutoCar wasn't just a car with special effects, it was literally made of computer code that had been given physical form. That wireframe beginning was crucial to making viewers believe in the show's digital reality concept. Number 13. The helicopter version used the same tape trick. The AutoCar wasn't the only vehicle in Automan's garage. When our holographic hero needed to take to the skies, Cursor would draw him the Auto Chopper. And yes, they used the exact same reflective tape trick. The production team took a Bell Jet Ranger helicopter, covered it in 3M retro reflective tape, and created a flying version of the AutoCar effect. The glowing blue outline against the night sky looked absolutely incredible for 1983 television. The Auto Chopper appeared in fewer episodes because helicopter shoots were expensive, but when it did show up, it maintained the same video game physics as the car. It could hover perfectly still, make impossible sharp turns, and moved like it was controlled by a joystick rather than actual flight controls. The tape application on the helicopter was actually trickier than the car. The curved surfaces of the Jet Ranger's fuselage didn't take the tape as cleanly as the Countach's flat panels. The effects team had to be creative with how they applied it to maintain that computer-generated look while working with the helicopter's organic shapes. But when it worked, it really worked. Number 12. The car could vanish instantly when not needed. Unlike Kite from Knight Rider, who had to be parked somewhere, the AutoCar could simply cease to exist. When Automan didn't need his ride anymore, Cursor would reverse the materialization process. The car would break apart into wireframe lines, then those lines would dissolve into nothing. Just gone. Like closing a program on your computer. This wasn't just convenient for the plot, it was essential to the show's concept. The AutoCar was data made physical, so it could return to being data whenever necessary. No parking tickets, no garage needed, no maintenance, just pure digital convenience. The vanishing effect was achieved by running the materialization footage in reverse with some additional dissolution effects added in post. But they sold it perfectly. You believed this car could just stop existing and then rematerialize exactly when needed. What's really clever is how they use this to solve typical TV production problems. Need to explain why the super obvious glowing car isn't attracting attention? It doesn't exist when they don't need it. Need to get the hero somewhere without showing a long driving sequence. Materialize the car right where they need it. Number 11. Daylight scenes were almost impossible due to power draw. According to the show's lore, Automan required massive amounts of electricity to exist. During the day when the city's power grid was under maximum load, he could barely maintain his form, let alone create vehicles. This is why almost every AutoCar scene happens at night. But here's the real reason. The reflective tape effect that made the car glow only worked in low light conditions. In bright sunlight, the AutoCar would have just looked like a black Lamborghini with weird tape stuck all over it. Not exactly the digital dream machine they were going for. The show's writers were genius to build this limitation into the mythology. Instead of being a production constraint, Automan's weakness during daylight became part of his character. It also created natural dramatic tension. Our hero was most powerful when the city slept, turning him into a kind of digital vampire who could only fully exist in darkness. There are maybe 2 or 3 daylight scenes with the AutoCar in the entire series, and they had to use completely different techniques to make it work, usually involving a lot of creative editing and avoiding wide shots where you'd see the whole car clearly. Number 10. Chuck Wagner described it as following computer game laws. Chuck Wagner, who played Automan, had one of the best descriptions of the AutoCar's movement. He said it obeyed, quote, the laws of computer games, unquote, not the laws of physics. This wasn't just actor talk. Wagner understood exactly what the show was trying to do. In 1983, video game physics were incredibly basic. Cars and games moved in straight lines, turned at perfect angles, and could stop instantly. There was no momentum, no weight transfer, no realistic physics simulation. That's exactly how the AutoCar behaved. Wagner said filming the driving scenes was surreal because he had to react to movements that made no logical sense. When the car made those instant 90-degree turns, he had to throw himself around the interior to sell the effect. But there was no actual G-force causing it. He was essentially mime-acting the effects of impossible physics. He also noted that the AutoCar scenes required a different kind of acting. In a normal car chase, actors react to real sensations. In the AutoCar, Wagner had to imagine what it would feel like to be inside a video game sprite. No other show has ever asked that of its lead actor. Number 9. There was official AutoCar merchandise, including a Commodore 64 game. Despite only lasting 13 episodes, Automan spawned a surprising amount of merchandise. And yes, there was an actual Commodore 64 game where you could drive the AutoCar. How's that for meta? A video game about a car that moves like it's in a video game. The game was basically a simple driving game where you controlled the AutoCar through city streets, making those signature 90-degree turns and avoiding obstacles. The graphics were primitive even by 1983 standards, but it captured the feel of the show. You could strafe sideways, turn instantly, and the car left a light trail behind it just like in the show. But that wasn't all. There were AutoCar toys, including a die-cast model that actually glowed in the dark. There was an official Automan Halloween costume, complete with a plastic chess piece that was supposed to look holographic. There were lunchboxes, trading cards, and even a board game where you moved the AutoCar around a city grid. The merchandise is incredibly rare now, and goes for insane prices on eBay when it shows up. That Commodore 64 game? Good luck finding a working copy for less than $200. Number 8. Only 12 of 13 episodes. Aired in the United States. Here's something that'll frustrate completionists. Automan produced 13 episodes, but only 12 ever aired in the United States during the original run. The 13th episode, titled Unreasonable Facsimile, was completed, but pulled from the schedule. Why? Money. The show was incredibly expensive to produce, and ratings weren't justifying the cost. ABC pulled the plug before the final episode could air. That missing episode did eventually air in some international markets, and later showed up in syndication. But for American viewers watching in 1983, the series just stopped. No finale, no closure, just gone. Like someone had de-resolved the whole show. The expensive visual effects were a huge part of why the show got cancelled. Every AutoCar sequence required extensive post-production work. The glowing effects, the materialization sequences, the impossible physics demonstrations, it all cost money. Lots of money. For a show that was already struggling in ratings against the A-Team, that was a death sentence. Ironically, the very thing that made Automan unique, those incredible AutoCar effects, was also what killed it. Number 7. Some shots used a real black Countach without effects. Not every AutoCar shot used the full glowing effect. For certain scenes, especially close-ups and interior shots, the production used a regular black Lamborghini Countach without any retro-reflective tape or post-production enhancement. You can spot these shots if you know what to look for. The car suddenly looks more solid, more real. The body panels have actual reflections instead of that uniform glow. These shots were necessary for practical reasons. You couldn't have actors getting in and out of a car covered in reflective tape under production lights. It would have looked ridiculous. So they'd film those scenes with the normal car and cut them together with the effects shots. The production actually had access to 2 different Countachs during filming. One was rigged with all the tape and effects preparation. The other was kept clean for these practical shots. They had to match the car's positions perfectly when cutting between them, which required incredibly precise planning. Sometimes you can catch continuity errors where the car seems to lose its glow for a frame or 2. That's when they accidentally included a bit of the practical car in an effects sequence. Number 6. The scissor doors weren't props. That's actually how Countach is. Opened for viewers in 1983 who'd never seen a Lamborghini. Countach in person, which was most people, the scissor doors looked like pure science fiction. Doors that opened upward instead of outward. That had to be a special effect for the computer car, right? Wrong. Those vertical opening doors were standard equipment on every Countach. Lamborghini introduced them on the Countach prototype in 1971 because the car was so wide and low that conventional doors were impractical. You literally couldn't open normal doors in a parking space. But for Automan, these doors were perfect. They made the AutoCar look even more otherworldly. When Automan stepped out with those doors raised up like wings, it reinforced that this wasn't just any car. The doors also solved a production problem. The glowing effect made it hard to see the car's details, but those distinctive scissor doors were instantly recognizable even through the blue haze. Everyone knew this was something special the moment those doors went up. It's funny that a practical engineering solution from Italy became part of selling a computer-generated superhero car on American television. Number 5. Automan could wrap the car around Walter for protection. One of the weirdest abilities of the AutoCar was that it could essentially cocoon around Walter during those violent turns. Since the car operated on video game physics but humans didn't, Walter would get thrown around like a pinball during chase scenes. The solution? Automan could somehow wrap the car's digital field around his human friend. This protection mode was never fully explained, but it seemed to create a bubble of computer physics around Walter. Suddenly, those bone-crushing 90-degree turns became survivable. He'd still get tossed around for comedic effect, but he wouldn't actually die from the G-forces. The visual effect for this was subtle, just an extra glow around Walter during the dangerous maneuvers, but it represented something profound in the show's mythology. Automan could extend his digital reality to protect humans, literally wrapping them in computer code to shield them from physical laws. Think about how insane that concept is. A holographic being piloting a car made of light could alter the laws of physics around his human passenger. That's some next-level science fiction that the show just threw in as a sight gag. Number 4. The Countach design. Came from Bertoni's radical wedge philosophy. The Lamborghini, Countach's design wasn't just futuristic, it represented a complete revolution in automotive design. Marcello Gandini at Bertone created the ultimate wedge shape, a car that looked like it was carved from a single geometric block. For Automan, this design was absolutely perfect. The Countach already looked like something from a computer even without the effects. Those sharp angles, flat panels, and that impossibly low profile made it seem more like a rendered object than a real car. The car's silhouette became the definitive 80s supercar shape, appearing on bedroom posters worldwide. But for the AutoCar, that wedge design served another purpose. The flat surfaces made the reflective tape application cleaner and more uniform. Curved surfaces would have distorted the glow effect, but the Countach's planar design kept everything crisp and digital looking. Gandini probably never imagined his radical design would one day represent a computer-generated vehicle on American television. But that wedge shape he created became the perfect bridge between automotive design and digital aesthetics. Even today, when people think of what a computer-generated car should look like, they often reference that classic Countach silhouette. Number 3. The production team used chroma key to intensify the blue glow. The reflective tape alone wasn't enough to create that intense blue glow that made the AutoCar so memorable. The production team had to layer multiple effects techniques, including extensive use of chroma key compositing, the same blue screen technology used in weather broadcasts. Here's how it worked. They'd film the taped-up Countach against specific backgrounds. Then, in post-production, they'd key out certain colors and replace them with enhanced glow effects. They'd literally paint additional light onto the car frame by frame. Sometimes they'd composite multiple passes of the same shot, one for the car, one for the glow, one for the light trails it left behind. This was incredibly labor-intensive for 1983. No computer assistance, just optical printers and careful hand timing. Each AutoCar sequence could take days to complete in post-production. The blue color was specifically chosen because it worked best with the available compositing technology. Other colors either didn't key as cleanly or didn't create the right otherworldly effect. That specific shade of electric blue became iconic, immediately recognizable as the Automan signature. You see that color on a car in any 80s show, you know exactly what they're referencing. Number 2. Glenn. Larson created it as his digital superhero experiment. Glenn Larson, the man behind Knight Rider, Battlestar Galactica, and Buck Rogers, created Automan as his experimental mashup of superheroes and cutting-edge visual effects. This wasn't just another TV show for him. It was Larson pushing the boundaries of what television could do in 1983. Larson saw the success of Tron in theaters and wanted to bring that digital aesthetic to the small screen. But he also wanted to ground it in the superhero tradition. Automan wasn't just a special effect, he was a crime fighter. The AutoCar wasn't just eye candy, it was the hero's primary tool for justice. The entire show was Larson asking what if Superman came from a computer instead of Krypton? What if the Batmobile was made of pure data? He was trying to create mythology for the digital age where our heroes came from technology rather than other planets or tragic origins. The AutoCar represented everything Larson was trying to achieve. It was visually incredible, conceptually bold, and unlike anything else on television. Even though the show only lasted 13 episodes, Larson's experiment influenced how we think about digital heroes. Every time a character in a modern show enters cyberspace or manifests digital objects in the real world, they're following the path Automan blazed. Number 1, the entire package cost so much it helped kill the show. Here's the ultimate irony, the very thing that made the AutoCar incredible, those groundbreaking visual effects, is what killed Automan. Each episode cost a fortune to produce, with the AutoCar sequences eating up huge chunks of the budget. Every materialization sequence, every chase scene, every impossible turn required hours of expensive post-production work. In 1983, you couldn't just render this stuff on a computer. It was all practical effects, optical printing, and frame-by-frame compositing. A single AutoCar chase scene could cost as much as entire episodes of other shows. The network executives saw the bills and the ratings, and the math didn't work. The show was pulling decent numbers, but not enough to justify the cost. The AutoCar was literally too expensive to exist. What makes this even more tragic is that the effects still hold up today. Sure, they look dated, but they have a practical, tangible quality that CGI often lacks. The AutoCar felt real because it was real, just enhanced with every trick 1983 technology could muster. The show needed just a little more time to find its audience, but the AutoCar's expensive appetite for post-production dollars meant time was the one thing they couldn't afford. And there you have it, 20 weird facts about the AutoCar, the glowing Lamborghini that drove straight out of a computer and into TV history before vanishing, like it was de-resolved by Cursor himself. This digital dream machine might have only existed for 13 episodes, but it left tire marks on our imagination that still glow 40 years later. Did you remember Automan? Did any of these facts surprise you? Drop a comment below and let us know if you were one of the few who caught this show during its brief original run. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive into 80s TV obscurity, make sure you like and subscribe. We've got plenty more forgotten gems from television's weirdest decade coming your way. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.